Are we having a good time? Are we having a good time? Are we having a good time? How was your day? Did you have a good day today? And do you know what's currently going on in the United States? If you don't, welcome to the channel, okay? I'm going to tell you everything going on in the United States, recently, of course. And like we all know, some of you don't know, the OG, the 45th, now the 47th President of the United States, he had a meeting today with a couple of his cabinet members, and they spoke about a lot of things, which we're going to listen to right now. Issues that truly matters in the United States, as well as the war chat leak by Pete Hegseth and a lot of people. All right, Tulsi Gabbard, FBI Director Kash Patel. A lot of people were, in that group chat that apparently got leaked, or somebody invited a journalist in the chat, and the president spoke about it in his meeting, and I'm very excited to check this out with you guys. Let's see.
We're going to have a little session today on the ambassadors. It's a group of people that were selected. They're doing very well. They're very far along in the process. And they're going to each introduce themselves and talk about the country that they're going to. They might say a little bit about themselves also, because people are very interested in that. We're also going to sign right now some executive orders. And Will, if you would come forward?
Yes, sir.
I'll start thinking about signing them, right?
A few things for you today, sir. First, we have a pardon for Devon Archer. Devon Archer was a former business partner of the Biden family. He's was prosecuted relating to a fraud investigation, but notably the tone and tenor of that prosecution changed dramatically after he began to cooperate with congressional investigators and serve as a witness against Hunter Biden and the Biden family. We believe that was an injustice, and therefore we're asking you to pardon him.
And many people have asked me to do this. I think he was treated very unfairly. And I looked at the records, studied the records, and he was a victim of a crime, as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to undo that. All right. That's Devon Archer. Congratulations, Devon.
Next, sir, we have a presidential memorandum for your attention. This memorandum requires the immediate declassification of all FBI files relating to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. This was obviously one of the instances of the weaponization of law enforcement powers of prosecution against you and others. We believe that it's long past time for the American people to have a full and complete understanding of what exactly is in those files.
Which gives the media the right to go in and check it. You probably won't bother because you're not going to like what you see. But this was total weaponization. It's a disgrace. Should never happen in this country. But now you'll be able to see for yourselves, all declassified. Is that correct? Would you
Yes, sir.
say? All declassified?
Yes, sir.
Everything?
The FBI file with there's a classified annex, but other than that, this we'll put everything in the public eye.
Is anybody going to look? Huh? What about you? You going to look? And frankly, the FBI should be ashamed of themselves, and so should the Department of Justice, and so should Biden. Okay?
Next, sir, we have an executive order for your attention. We've taken action against a number of law firms that have participated either in the weaponization of government, the weaponization of the legal system for political ends, or have otherwise engaged in illegal or inappropriate activities. The law firm of Jenner and Block is one of these law firms. This is a law firm that, as you know, employed Andrew Weissman after he came off of the Mueller investigation. It's a law firm that's engaged in invidious, racially and sexually discriminatory practices. It's also a law firm that has participated in the weaponization of the legal system against American principles and values, and we believe that the measures in this executive order will help correct that.
And Andrew Weissman is the main culprit?
He's certainly...
With respect to this firm?
He is one of a number of reasons that we believe this executive order is warranted.
He's a bad guy. Okay.
Next, sir, we have an executive order for your attention relating actually to government payments. Historically, checks issued by the Treasury are, I believe, 14 times more likely to become the subject of fraud than electronic transfer payments. This is an executive order that's going to push the Treasury Department to modernize its payment system to ensure that where possible they're using electronic methods of payment as opposed to paper checks in order to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in the government. We've been pursuing in numerous aspects of government under your leadership.
It's basically modernization of equipment and methods, and it's something that really I think he's going to be a great Secretary of the Treasury wanted, Scott, and so we're doing this, and we have other modernization programs going on. We could let somebody else, whoever's next, whoever that may be, do it, but it's something that should have been done 25, 30 years ago. Okay.
Along similar lines, sir, this is an executive order. We're calling it Protecting America's Bank Account. The basic idea here is that instead of having lots of different departments and agencies and offices issuing payment, often without justification, often without any provided rationale, we're going to be centraling payment processes where possible in the Department of the Treasury and ensuring that measures are taken in Treasury against waste, fraud, and abuse to ensure that money that's leaving the public Treasury is as protected as it possibly can be.
All right, good. Many of these things should have taken place decades ago or longer.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order for your attention on the very important subject of election integrity. We believe that this executive order is the farthest reaching executive action taken in the history of the Republic to secure our elections. Among numerous other aspects of this executive order, this is going to cut down on illegal immigrants on the voter rolls, ensure that the Department of Homeland Security and the data that they have available is being fully weaponized to ensure that illegal immigrants aren't voting. This will include a citizenship question on the federal voting form for the first time. This executive order instructs the EAC to cut federal funding to states that don't take reasonable steps to secure their election. This calls on the Department of Justice to vigorously prosecute election crimes, particularly in states that we don't believe are in compliance with federal law around election integrity. I could go on and on for a while, sir, but the compliance with National Election Day rules, cracking down and investigating and prosecuting foreign interference in our elections, revoking President Biden's Executive Order 14019, which essentially weaponized government to corrupt and pollute our election process. There's a lot in here, but we believe that these are very important steps that we need to be taking as an administration at your direction to ensure that our elections are as secure as they possibly can be.
Okay, you all understand that? Yes. Mm-hmm. Election fraud, you've heard the term. We'll end it, hopefully. At least this will go a long way toward ending it. There are other steps that we will be taking in the coming weeks, and we think we'll be able to end up getting fair elections. Perhaps some people think I shouldn't be complaining because we won in a landslide, but we got to straighten out our election. This country is so sick because of the election, the fake elections and the bad elections, and we're going to straighten it out one way or the other. And it's an honor to sign this one. To sign all of them, but to sign this one is a great honor. Thank you very much.
Sorry, sir.
So we're going to go around the room a little bit quickly, and we're going to introduce these very outstanding people. They've had, in all cases, outstanding careers. They're very incredible people that going along as rapidly as the system can go along. We're ahead of, I guess, anybody else thus far. So I want to thank John Thune. He's done a very good job, and the whole Senate. We're being delayed as much as possible by Democrats, but that's standard. It gets to be just standard. But the process is moving along very quickly. So, Sergio, just say hello, and then we'll introduce everybody.
Absolutely. Sergio Gorham, Director of Presidential Personnel. It's been an absolute pleasure again to know every one of you every step this way. As the President said, we're at a record pace. We have more nominees today from the Senate than at any previous point, over 70. And that's a record in 2 months. And we're proud of that. And we're determined to ensure the world has America First patriots in all of our posts.
Charlie?
Charles Kushner. I'm going to France and Monaco, and I'm proud to serve under the greatest president of our country. Very proud to serve.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie.
James Blair, honored to work here in the White House as Deputy Chief of Staff. And Mr. President, I think that all of these successful people would want to go serve the United States under your leadership is a testament to your vision and leadership.
Thank you, James.
I'm David Perdue. I'm going to the People's Republic of China, and it's my honor to represent President Trump, the people of America, and represent our interests and values in China.
I'm Leah Campos. I'm going to represent the President in the Dominican Republic. Mr. President, thank you for the honor to serve you in the Republic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor. Look forward to working with every one of you on behalf of the President, his leadership, and the American
Thanks,
people.
John Arrigo.
So that is Mike Waltz, the person that allegedly added the journalist to the chat, okay, which caused a leak. Well, it's a big deal. All right, it's a big deal because it's supposed to be highly confidential, but for some reason, a journalist was added to the chat. But that right there is Mike Waltz, okay? You heard the president said, thank you, Mike Waltz. And this happened today, all right?
Mr. President, thank you for the honor to serve you in the Republic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor. Look forward to working with every one of you on behalf of the President, his leadership, and the American
Thanks,
people.
John Arrigo. I am going to the Republic of Portugal, and I'm very excited to do so and serve what I consider one of my closest friends and one of the best presidents this country has ever had. Thank you.
Kevin Cabrera, nominated to be Ambassador to Panama. It truly is an honor, President, to be part of your administration.
Thank you.
Tom Barrack, nominee to the Republic of Turkey. Delighted and honored to be with you, Mr. President, in the host country, which is one of the most ancient in civilization, is in search for your peace, prosperity, and security program. Thank you.
Good place.
Mr. President.
Good leader, too.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. It's an honor. I'm Pete Hoekstra, you know that. But I am going to Canada.
Ooh.
I look forward to serving you in Canada and your agenda.
And you do a great job. Thanks, Pete.
51st state.
Bob
51st
Johnson,
state, Canada.
Thank you for the nomination
51st.
to represent you and the United States to the United Mexican States. And I'm really encouraged by some of the conversations you've had with President Sheinbaum recently and to the increase in support that we've seen of her government along our border on the important issues. So thank you, sir.
They have stepped it up a lot,
Yes, sir.
Mexico and Canada, so see how it works, right?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Matt Whitaker from Des Moines, Iowa. I'm proud to, as soon as I'm confirmed, go represent you at the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
Thank you.
George Glass, on my way to Japan. Previous administration, I served for you in Portugal. It is a great honor to be able to do this a second time. And thank you
very
for
much.
the opportunity.
Thank you, George.
President Trump, my name is Ken Howry. I'm your nominee to be ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark, a very close partner and ally. I served for you last time for the Kingdom of Sweden. I want to thank you for the faith you place in me as your nominee to Denmark.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
President Trump, thank you for the honor of a lifetime. My name is Stacy Feinberg, and hopefully I'll have the honor of serving in Luxembourg. And I think that this is the greatest presidency and the greatest time in history, and it's all because of you.
Thank you very much.
Nicole McGraw, nominated to serve in Croatia, and it's such an honor to be here with you today and to serve you and the American people.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
President Trump, thank you very much for your nomination to the Republic of Chile. And let me tell you, Border Patrol agents are so thankful for everything that you've done for them. But
That man knows more about the border than anybody, I'm going to tell you. Thank you.
President's a great honor. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Good
Good
luck.
afternoon, Mr. President. Brian Birch. If I'm confirmed, I'll be representing you at the Holy See. And Catholics are very proud of your work. Your team is doing an excellent job, so thank you. Very honored to serve.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you again for the honor, the greatest privilege. My name is Summers Farkas. I will serve this great man at the Republic of Malta. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joe Popolo from Dallas, Texas. Very proud to serve you at the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the very first country to recognize the United States 250 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, if I'm confirmed, I will be representing you in the state of Israel. It will be an extraordinary honor, and you've done more for Israel than any president in any time of its history, and we are grateful. And I'm hoping I'll get to be there by Passover.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike is an outstanding guy. They all are. Mike, I think he's going to do wonders for Israel. He actually probably gets along with both sides, and that'll be interesting to see. But the world is watching you, Mike, so.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. It is currently 12:09. And of course, today's date is the 26th of March, 2025. If you're just tuning in, thank you for tuning in. We're currently watching the OG, the 45th, now the 47th President of the United States, President Donald J. Trump, have a meeting with a couple of professionals as well as his cabinet members on update on what's going on in the country, as well as the update. Well, that's going to happen towards the end, but of course, you know, Trump always likes to answer questions from the press. But I really want us to hear when he speaks about the war chat that was leaked. Okay, that's what I'm here for. I really want to hear what he has to say about it, because you know he's always talking about competence and performance. He doesn't want people who are not competent. And to me, I believe that what happened may be incompetence. So let's hear what he has to say about it.
Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Good luck. You're going to do well. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you for this great honor to serve the Republic of Italy and San Marino. I'm so looking forward to going over there and working with that great ally, and for the pleasure to serve you. Your staff has been great working with us and have done a great job, and we really appreciate them. Thank you, sir, for pushing this along.
And have a good time. A really good time.
I'm Warren Stevens from Little Rock, Arkansas, and I have the honor to represent the President and the United States in Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and to be chosen to go to such an important ally of ours. I know, sir, and I'm looking forward to it, but thank you for the honor.
Yeah, you're going to do fantastically. These are tremendously...
I get it, okay? A lot of people are saying, well, there was not any highly top secret information in the chat. So if you watched the hearing today when Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, and Mike Waltz, I think it should be Mike Waltz, and I don't think it's Mike Waltz, I think it was somebody else. They had a hearing today, and a senator asked Tulsi Gabbard, if you say there was no confidential information in the chat or on the chat, can you release it? If you say there was no classified information in the chat, can you declassify or let everybody see it? Well, if it wasn't classified, then there's no reason to declassify. So it's like, Tulsi kept saying there was nothing serious on the chat. So it's like, then let everybody see it then, if you're going to invite a journalist. But let's hear what they have to say.
Successful people, and you two guys, and then you add on Mike. I think they have a little more money than Mike, but he's got some other advantages. He's got some other, like upstairs, he's got some big advantages.
Y'all, yeah, like everybody watching right now, I don't want you guys to forget. I voted for Trump, okay? I support Trump. That's why if you check out my stream, I am talking about what he's doing and the progress he's making. So I support Trump 100%. But when things happen that you feel like, you know what, maybe this shouldn't have happened, you should have, to me, I feel like it is your responsibility to say something. And what happened yesterday was, shouldn't have happened.
It's very exciting. It's really exciting to have all of you. Would you have any questions, media, for the people that you just saw? So outstanding, and I thought it would be nice to bring them before you. And so if you have any questions, please.
I wanted to ask about the talks in Saudi Arabia. It sounds like you made some progress on a Black Sea ceasefire. Yeah. Could you update us on that? What happens now?
So we've made a lot of progress on two fronts, on both sections that we call them sections, but they're much more than that, Russia, Ukraine, and also the Middle East, and we'll see what happens. We're in deep discussions with Russia and Ukraine, and I would say it's going well, but it's a situation we should have never had to even think about, should have never happened. And on the Middle East, that's been going on for a lot of years. Centuries and centuries, it just keeps going, and we are making a lot of progress, so that's all I can report. But some very, very big talks are going, and detailed talks are going on right now on both fronts.
Mr. President, you said that your national security advisor learned a lesson after a reporter.
Excuse me, I didn't pick you. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, the ceasefire agreement that was broken today allows for third-party countries to help implement the agreement. What does that look like, and who's going to be involved?
The ceasefire agreement?
Yes, the maritime ceasefire agreement between Russia and Ukraine.
Well, they're going to get together. Look, it's they agreed to something, and it got broken. There's tremendous animosity. There's a lot of hatred, as you can probably tell, and it allows for people to get together, mediate it, arbitrate it, and see if we can get it stopped, and I think it will. That'll get stopped.
What countries are you looking to work with, sir, to help implement and monitor that ceasefire?
We have other countries involved, and they're involved very strongly in the process, and that'll be resolved. That's actually, as bad as it is, that's the least of the problems. So that we'll get that resolved, and we are being aided by other countries too. Yes, please.
Yes. Tomorrow, the subcommittee on DOGE is going to review funding for NPR and PBS. Now, every Republican president has always promised to take away this money that's going to these two public news outlets. If they're successful, I know Senator Kennedy has backed it, Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress has backed it. Would you be interested in defunding and taking away taxpayer dollars to NPR and PBS?
Well, I would love to do that. I think it's very unfair. It's been very biased for the whole group. I mean, a whole group of them. And frankly, there's plenty look at all the media you have right now. There's plenty of coverage. I was from a different age, and they spend more money than any other network of its type ever conceived. So the kind of money that's being wasted, and it's a very biased view, you know that better than anybody. And I'd be honored to see it end. We're well covered. Look at all the people that we have here today. We're well covered, and we don't need it, and it's a waste of money. Especially, I don't even know what DOGE's recommendation is. I assume their recommendation is to close them up.
Well, after they hear all the testimony, I think they're going to make a decision relatively sooner than later.
Yeah.
But we'll see what that turns out.
I can't imagine that they wouldn't, because they have found so much waste, fraud, and abuse. Hundreds of billions of dollars, and just waste, fraud, abuse. You heard yesterday some of the new things that were found. 22 billion just in environment. Billion. You know, if you had 22 million, Warren, it would be nice, but 22 billion put into environmental accounts. One was 2 billion into one account, Stacey Abrams, where they had $100 in the account. And just before I came in, they put $2 billion. And you guys are looking, so you mean 2 million or maybe 200,000? No, $2 billion were put in the account. What do you think of that, Mike? Do you think that's a straight deal? 2 billion?
Just write me the check, Mr. President.
It's a horrible thing, and we have so many of those things. So they've done an incredible job, and the country wants to hear it. I think DOGE is actually very popular because of what's happening. They're hearing about all of these scams and for big money, tremendous amount. And when you add it up, just hundreds of billions of dollars being wasted, and much of it's fraud. You know, we talk about waste. And it is waste and abuse, but a lot of it's fraud.
Can I follow up on something?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I just want to follow up on that. If Planned Parenthood is defunded, would you look into the harvesting of baby organs that they've done throughout the years and maybe go after some criminal prosecution on that?
Well, I think you're talking about a subject that is a heated subject. And we'll look into it. We're going to look into everything, but that's certainly a subject that's been debated for a long time, and we will look into it. Yeah.
Mr. President,
some senators have expressed hope that the White House will support a rescission package to codify some of the DOGE cuts into law. Where does the White House stand on that? And are you making progress?
Which package?
A rescission package to codify some of the DOGE cuts into law.
You know what? It would be great. I think we're going to do that. I think they're going to do it. I think we're also going to be codifying a lot of the executive orders that we've done, which have been very popular. And we're looking at one, I will tell you right now, that I think perhaps will be controversial, but not with the people, and that's sanctuary cities. We're going to end sanctuary cities for some of these jurisdictions that aren't cooperating with law enforcement. They're guarding criminals. They're taking the rights away from the citizens of this state and their city. And we're going to be ending sanctuary cities if we find it necessary to do in certain major areas. And we may just end the entire thing altogether because it's just a way of protecting criminals. And nobody else is benefited by that. And for some reason, Democrats want to keep and they want to shield criminals from being sent back to their countries or being sent to prison. And in the meantime, the crime rate has gone through the roof. Under Biden, it was through the roof. It's starting to come down, but we're taking a lot of people out of here. So we may be presenting you very shortly with a executive order ending sanctuary cities.
Mr. President, are you going to change any of the practices that your national security officials used after a reporter was inadvertently added to a group chat about attacks on Yemen?
Well, I think it's a question I've been asked now, and I've given a few answers, and they've all been the same. We have an amazing group. Our national security now is stronger than it's ever been. We have had a very successful, numerous attacks on that area. These are people that shoot down ships, not only our ships, ships all over the world. They're shooting down right out of the water and damaging them badly, or they're going down. They're also shooting anything that happens to be flying in the area. We hit them very hard. There was no classified information, as I understand it. They used a app, if you want to call it an app, that a lot of people use, a lot of people in government use, a lot of people in the media use. And I think I'll ask Mike. Mike is here. Do you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, Mr. President. You asked about lessons. I think there's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president, whether it's the Russia hoax or making up lies about Gold Star families. And this one in particular, I've never met, don't know, never communicated with, and we are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room. But I'll tell you what, the world owes President Trump a favor. Under Biden, global shipping was shut down. Pinprick attacks, months between them, our destroyers being fired upon dozens of times. President Trump took decisive action with his national security team, took out the head missileer, knocked out missiles, knocked out headquarters, knocked out communication sites. And for once, as we hear, as you all hear from every one of our allies, thank God for American leadership again. Thank God for American strength. You're welcome, we had a national security team that was coordinating these efforts. As Director Radcliffe testified today, His first day on the job, he was introduced to this app on his government systems at the CIA and at the State Department and otherwise. So, look, this journalist, Mr. President, wants the world talking about more hoaxes and this kind of nonsense rather than the freedom that you're enabling. And a key part of our sovereignty is open sea lanes and knocking the crap out of terrorists, which is exactly what your team and Pete Hegseth, a good friend and fellow veteran, is leading the charge on. And it's an honor to be part of
very,
it.
very successful.
I get it. Okay, I get it. Shout out to his answer. But the question was, bro, why was the chat everywhere? That's the question. Okay, we get it. Trump is doing a great job. Trump has been doing a great job from day one. He signed executive order to shut down the border. He's been bringing back the hostages. He's been doing great work. However, what happened yesterday happened. Okay, but I am hearing an update right now saying that Mike Waltz actually has come out to take full responsibility for the leak. He didn't do it here, I guess, because we're both watching this right now. He didn't say anything about, I apologize for leaking, whatever. But he's now came out now to say he takes full responsibility for the war chat leak. But we're gonna check that out after this. Stay tuned.
We had a very, very successful evening, and we've had numerous successful evenings and days in that area. The Houthis are absolutely on the run. The worst of them has been killed. This should have been done a long time ago by Biden, but Biden was an incompetent president. He couldn't do anything. He didn't know where he was going. He had no clue. This guy had no clue. This should have been done a long time ago. As they shoot missiles at ships, randomly shoot missiles at ships, and they make their own missiles. This is not an incompetent group of people. They make their own missiles. They get the missiles also from Iran. It's an offshoot of Iran, another offshoot. You have Hamas, you have Hezbollah, you have the Houthis. You got a lot of stuff going on with Iran. And we sent a letter to Iran. You're going to have to be speaking to us one way or the other pretty soon, because we can't let this happen. But that's an app that a lot of people use, and somebody got on. I happen to know the guy's a total sleazebag. The Atlantic is a failed magazine. Does very, very poorly. Nobody gives a damn about it. It gives.
Oh God, this is the OG that we all know. The OG we all know. His name is OG Trump. Check him out. Sleazebag, he calls him.
Hamas, you have Hezbollah, you have the Houthis. You got a lot of stuff going on with Iran. And we sent a letter to Iran. You're going to have to be speaking to us one way or the other pretty soon, because we can't let this happen. But that's an app that a lot of people use. And somebody got on. I happen to know the guy's a total sleazebag. The Atlantic is a failed magazine. Does very, very poorly. Nobody gives a damn about it. It gives it a little bit of a shot. And I will tell you this, that they've made up more stories, and they're just a failing magazine. The public understands that. He's a very good man. That man is a very good man right there that you criticize so strongly. He's a very good man, and he will continue to do a good job. In addition to him, we had very good people in that meeting, and those people have done a very, very effective job, and you're going to see it. And it goes on, by the way. It's going to go on. And I think the Houthis wish that it didn't happen, but that's what it's all about. We have to create a safe country, a safe world, and that's what we're doing.
Do you think national security was put at risk, Mr. President?
Of senior officials using signal.
Do I plan to ban who?
The use of signal to communicate from senior officials.
Well, I don't know I don't know anything about signal. I wasn't involved in this, but I just heard about it, and I hear it's used by a lot of groups. It's used by the media a lot. It's used by a lot of the military, and I think successfully. But sometimes somebody can get onto those things. That's one of the prices you pay when you're not sitting in the situation room with no phones on, which is always the best, frankly. But the best is to be there. In fact, oftentimes I've been in fact, just last week I was in the situation room with something very important, and we had a couple of people hooked up by line, and I said, cancel the line, sorry, fellas, what you do is we'll tell you all about the meeting, because I know people do get on those lines, whether it's Signal or anything else. Yeah.
So are you going to change any procedures as a result of this?
Well, I mean, look, we look at everything, and they've made a big deal out of this because we've had 2 perfect months. We are bringing in business. We have another one announced tomorrow, a big one, very big. Like in the history of our country, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I think probably a lot of people are saying they started by saying it was the greatest first month that a president has ever had, and I think that's true. And now they say it's the best second month, and they had to find something. And this certainly will look at this, but the main thing was nothing happened. The attack was totally successful. It was, I guess, from what I understand, took place during, and it wasn't classified information. So this was not classified. Now, if it's classified information, it's probably a little bit different. But I always say you have to learn from every experience. I think it was very unfair the way they attacked Michael. He's a good person. The person that was on just happens to be a sleazebag, so maybe that's just coincidence. I don't know.
But you are going to conduct
would
an
it be a
investigation.
problem if the Atlantic released all the text messages if they're not classified?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to ask the military about that, because maybe you wouldn't want that. I don't know. I will say this: that from what I heard, the man that we're talking about, who's not somebody that I don't think most people have ever heard of, he left. He found it very boring, and he left early. He got off the line very early. So I can't speak to it other than that. So he's made up a lot of stories, and I think he's basically bad for the country. But it's a failing venture, very failing venture. They're very upset, and a thing like this is publicity for them. But I don't think we should allow people that are very good, like that man sitting right at the end of the table, who's done a great job. We shouldn't allow them to be hurt by it.
Mr. President, can I follow up on that? Can I follow up on that? Are you saying you're okay with the continued use of Signal by administration officials
No, that's
for
not what I said. I said we'll look into it, but everybody else seems to be using it. It seems to be the #1 used device or app, whatever you want to call it, and we will certainly look. If it was up to me, everybody would be sitting in a room together. The room would have solid lead walls and a lead ceiling and a lead floor. But, life doesn't always let you do that. In the meantime, the attack itself that we were talking about and discussing has been an unbelievable success.
But you will conduct an investigation as well.
That's what I'm saying. It was an attack, and everything went well, apparently. But then they're saying it's not a classified event. Like, the messages were not classified. But what Congress is saying is, if it wasn't classified, then show us the messages that you're saying wasn't classified. Tulsi said today during the hearing that they spoke about weapons. So it's like, if you're speaking about weapons or types of weapons or ways that you're going to attack your enemies, I would say that is classified information. But DNI said it wasn't classified. So who am I to say it is classified? According to DNI, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard says there was no classified update on there. So
what you're saying into this.
We'll look into it, Chair.
Who's going to lead that investigation?
I want to look into
the FBI or
anything like that. I would ask them. It's not really an FBI thing. It's really something having to do with security. Security, like, will somebody be able to break in? Are people able to break into conversations? And if that's true, we're going to have to find some other form of device. And I think that's something that we may have to do. Some people like Signal very much. Other people probably don't. But we'll look into it. I think, Michael, I've asked you to immediately study that and find out. If people are able to break into a system, now in this case it wasn't that this attack was going on and nobody found out anything. And again, the person that was on, as I understand it, he left very early because he didn't find it very exciting. But I think it's something you should look into.
Yes, sir, we are. We have our technical experts looking at it. We have our legal teams looking at it. And of course, We're going to keep everything as secure as possible. No one in your national security team would ever put anyone in danger. And as you've said, and we've repeatedly said, the attack was phenomenal and it's ongoing. But the media wants to talk about everything else except for the hostages you're getting out of the Middle East, Iran on its back foot, sea lanes getting reopened, peace in Europe. As we just saw today with a Black Sea ceasefire, we were just on with Steve Witkoff, myself, our team in Saudi Arabia. They want to talk about all this other stuff except for your amazing successes and the successes of your team.
One of the other things, and sometimes you have to move very quickly, and there are other devices that are very good, but they are very, very cumbersome, and you're not able to use them and, from a practical standpoint. So all we can do is find out the best we have with modern technology. They'll probably get better over the years. Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, on the Black Sea, so the Kremlin has said that there are several conditions that would need to be met for this agreement to happen. This includes sanction relief for banks and some companies. Did the U.S. agree to all of those conditions that they laid out?
They will be looking at them, and we're thinking about all of them right now. There are about 5 or 6 conditions. We're looking at all of them.
Mr. President said that it's looking into how a journalist got added to that signal chat. Is it possible that there could be a firing of even a lower mid-level official once that person is identified?
About what?
About the signal chat that we've been discussing.
We've pretty much looked into it. It's pretty simple, to be honest. It's not. It's just something that can happen. It can happen. You can even prepare for it. It can happen. Sometimes people are hooked in and you don't know they're hooked in. They're hooked into your line and they don't even mean bad by it. But it's not a perfect technology. There is no perfect technology. The really good ones are very cumbersome, very hard to access. And I think we're going to look at, we always want to use the best technology. This was the best technology for the moment. But again, it wasn't classified, so they probably viewed it as being something that wasn't that important. And it obviously, with the attack being, I mean, I don't know if it's been read out to you yet, but that attack was a tremendous success for the U.S., a tremendous success.
Who said the information was not classified?
Do you think that Mike Waltz made a mistake, and does he need to apologize?
No, I don't think he should apologize. I think he's doing his best. It's equipment and technology that's not perfect, and probably he won't be using it again, at least not in the very near future. What do you think?
Yes, sir. I agree with you. Let's get everybody in the room whenever possible.
A lot of times you find out defects by exactly things like that, but I don't think it's something we're looking forward to using again. We may be forced to use it. You may be in a situation where you need speed as opposed to gross safety, and you may be forced to use it, but generally speaking, I think we probably won't be using it very much.
Mr. President, the Secretary of Defense, on that train, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, and J.D. Vance, the Vice President, said that the Europeans were freeloading. Do you agree with that assessment?
Do you really want me to answer that? Yeah, I think they've been freeloading. The European Union's been absolutely terrible to us on trade, terrible. And as you know, NATO, I got them to pay hundreds of billions of dollars. They were way behind. And if you look if you look at Ukraine, so we're in for $350 billion because of Biden. Should have never happened, this war. All these dead people should not be dead. All these broken cities that are demolished down to the ground, those gorgeous towers, the most beautiful in the world, the most beautiful spires in the world. The spires in Ukraine were said to be the most beautiful of all. Just about every one of them is lying on its side in a million pieces. It's so sad to see what's happened to a heritage. No, I think that when they say the European Union and you could say NATO also. Look, NATO, and I don't blame NATO for this. I don't blame Europe for this. I blame Biden for the fact that he didn't make them equalize. And to this day, I said to him, you got to catch up, you got to equalize. But why are they in for $100 billion and we're in for possibly $350 billion? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. And you could say more important for them because we have an ocean in between. So it's one of those things. You'll be seeing Liberation Day. I call it Liberation Day in America. You're going to be seeing it on April 2nd. Didn't want to do it on April 1st for the obvious reason. April 2nd, but you'll be seeing tariffs. And I think I've been very fair I have them set, but I think I've been very fair to countries that have really abused us economically for many, many decades.
But
Mr.
on the same
President,
group
that
chat.
information was not classified. Which of your national security advisors
Just
told you
following
that?
up on your comments on the economy, there is reporting that consumer confidence fell for the fourth straight month. What is your message to Americans who are concerned
Well,
about
I know this, that for the first time in like 50 years, right track, wrong track, we were on the right track. And I think people see that. And if you look at prices are way down. You know, when I first came here, the first time I met with you people officially, they were screaming at me about eggs. I said, I've been here for a week and I'm being yelled at about eggs. Egg prices have come down 45–50% in the last week and a half. And our Secretary of Agriculture has done a great job, as you know, Brooke. She's done a fantastic job, and others working with her have done a great job. But we brought eggs down at a level that nobody thought we could get at. I inherited that situation, and I inherited a grocery situation. The groceries went way up, an old-fashioned word, but it's a very descriptive word. Groceries have gone through the roof. And I used to campaign on it. I used to say, we're going to get groceries down, and we have got it down. I watched a certain newscast over the weekend, and a congressman, Democrat congressman, said, well, Trump's done a lot, I agree. He's been great on the border, he's been great on the military, but you know, he hasn't brought prices down. That's false. Gasoline's way down. Eggs are way down. Groceries are down, very substantially, but down. Almost everything's down. Now, I'd like to see interest rates come down a little bit, and you're going to see billions of dollars, even trillions of dollars coming into our country very soon in the form of tariffs, because we were abused by presidents that, frankly, in all fairness, it wasn't their expertise, but they had no idea what they were doing.
Mr. President, you say tariffs will create more jobs here in America.
Oh,
so
yeah, sure.
Which
So
states?
agree.
Which
It'll create a lot of money and more jobs. But if you look, so in the last, these gentlemen would know about it, and ladies, because some of the ladies are great businessmen in this room that are becoming ambassadors. Great, really great, top of the line. When you look at the number of companies that have said, like, we're close to, I would say close to $4 trillion. We never had numbers like that. The number one chip maker in the world from Taiwan coming in with $200 billion. We have Apple. Look at Apple. $500 billion. $500 billion. They're going to build plants all over the United States. They were all being built in China. You have many, many companies, and maybe above all, you have the car companies coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We have Honda is opening up one of the biggest plants in the world in Indiana, and many car companies are coming in. We have AI. We're leading China by a lot in AI, and we're going to keep it that way because we've made it very good for them, and we're going to protect them once they're here. We'll protect them through taxes, through incentives, and also through tariffs. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you.
There's something you cannot say about Trump. You can never say he's not transparent. He would answer questions, even if is in the hot water. And he is actually right now because, of course, his cabinet member caused a leak in war chat. So, with that being said, you have to applaud him for his transparency and the ability to be able to say, you know what, it is what it is. We're going to talk to American people and let them know this is what it is. But as you see here, Mike never said anything about, you know what, I'm sorry, I take full responsibility for it. And the president also said he thinks he shouldn't apologize for it. So, of course, when the boss says you don't have to apologize for it, then you definitely would not be apologizing in front of your boss. But here is Mike Waltz tonight on Fox News saying, I take full responsibilities, Americans. Is this going to come up or not? Is this going to come up or not?
Let's bring in Connecticut Democratic Congressman and ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Jim Himes.
All right, this is the video right here.
Joining us now, one of the principals who was on that Signal chat, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Advisor Waltz, thank you for joining us tonight. The president expressed complete confidence in you today.
Exactly. Laura says the president expressed complete confidence in you today. So let's hear what Mike Waltz has to say.
His entire cabinet. But how did a Trump-hating editor of The Atlantic end up on your Signal chat?
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, who has lied to Gold Star families, lied to their attorneys, and gone to Russia hoax, gone to just all kinds of links to lie and smear the president of the United States. And he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
Is someone in your intel? Is someone in your intel team trying to cause trouble here? Because that's the scuttlebutt out there.
Look,
that
we have people. We have people. No, look, this is a great group. The president has a great team. This is not first term.
No, your team. I'm not talking about the other principals.
No. These were principals and a couple of staff that were coordinating, as you saw, having a policy discussion as we went forward, and then just in the days before what was an incredible strike. Not only did we take out people that the Biden team never could, that we took out headquarters, missile caches, and actually one of the leaders of the Houthi organization, we've since taken out several since. And, you know, that's what they don't want to talk about. They don't want to talk about the success here. They don't want to talk about the hostages getting released. They don't want to talk about the Black Sea ceasefire that we just put in place today as the president ends the largest land war in Europe, or the border, or the fact that Panama just kicked China out of the canal, and success after success after success. So they want to focus on this. It's embarrassing, yes. We're going to get to the bottom of it. I just talked to Elon on the way here. We've got the best technical minds looking at how this happened. But I can tell you for 100%, I don't know this guy. I know him by his horrible reputation, and he really is the bottom scum of journalists. And I know him in the sense that he hates the president, but I don't text him. He wasn't on my phone, and we're going to figure out how this happened.
So you don't know what staffer is responsible for this right now?
Well, look, a staffer wasn't responsible, and look, I take full responsibility. I built the group. My job is to make sure everything's coordinated.
But how did the number? I mean, I don't mean to be pedantic here, but how did the number?
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
So your staffer did not put his contact information.
No,
but how did it end up in your phone?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay, but that's a pretty big problem.
That is what, that's what we've got the best technical minds, right?
That's disturbing.
And that's where, I mean, I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different.
Yeah, look, I get it. But you are Mike Waltz, okay? You're not everybody else. You work with the commander-in-chief, okay? So don't say everybody else. I voted for Trump, okay? All right, I did. But nah, Mike. I like the fact that he said, I take full responsibility for it, okay? But don't say everybody else, you guys have your own. No. You have the highest resource in the land at your disposal, so then it was everybody else.
Phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then then somehow it gets
someone
sucked
sent
in,
you that
it gets
contact.
sucked in.
Was there someone else supposed to be on the chat that wasn't on the chat that you thought was?
So
on
the
the chat?
person that I thought was on there was never on there. It was this
Who
guy.
was that? What person?
Well, I'm not. Look, okay. Laura, I take responsibility. I built the group.
Okay.
So
that is what I respect. Taking full responsibility for it. That's it.
But look, that's the part that we have to figure out, and that's the part that embarrassing, yes, but Pete and I are veterans. We know these operations. He has been an excellent Secretary of Defense, and this was an operation that, I mean, it amazes me. I guess the Democrats were fine to leave all the sea lanes shut down. We're fine to have destroyers fired on dozens of times by this terrorist group, and fine to have Iran keep supplying them missiles. That was okay. The president takes decisive action. And now we're seeing some real success in taking down their air defenses, opening the sea lanes, taking out their leadership. We don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about this.
Now, the Atlantic told us in part that attempts to disparage and discredit us in our reporting follow an obvious playbook by elected officials and others of power who are hostile to journalists and First Amendment rights of all Americans. They're saying, don't blame the messenger. Your response to them?
Lied about Russia, lied about Gold Star families, lied about even as last, year in terms of the president paying for the family of a Gold Star family that he absolutely did. I mean, lie after lie after lie.
Have they ever apologized for any of that?
No. I mean, this is... Do we care about the mainstream media? Do we care about the Atlantic? What I care about is staying focused on mission, accomplishing the president's agenda, getting these things done, cleaning up the Biden messes from Afghanistan to Ukraine to the Houthis to the border to China all over South America to the Arctic where we're completely exposed to NATO that's not paying up and the president has had success after success, he's got a fantastic national security team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just stunning how many people on the team have his 100% trust, and there have been enormous successes early on in this administration, but you all are rattling the old cages of the establishment, defense, and national security, embedded people who are still working in government, a lot of great people, but the concern is that somebody got involved here who didn't want the president to be successful. And a lot of us are very concerned about that someone is in this orbit who doesn't want this president of the United States to be a raging success and turn our foreign policy into an America First approach.
Look, we made a mistake. We're moving forward, and we're going to continue to knock it out of the park for this president. Look at what he's gotten done in under 2 months. And I didn't even get going on the economy, on trade, or all of those other pieces.
And April 2nd's coming.
Liberation Day.
The DNI was very adamant today and very clear that there was no classified information in this text chat. And the Democrats, of course, are predictably, they're going to jump on this. But should Goldberg just release the other information that he has? Because he's standing on this, I'm not going to release this information because I have my standards and journalistic standards. Okay, but it's not classified information, so does it matter? Would you care if the rest of this information came out?
Look, I mean, I would prefer, certainly, as the president was saying today, if we could all sit in a steel-lined lead room and have all of these conversations. I certainly want our deliberations to stay confidential. This was an encrypted app that the CIA
had on sitting there as John Ratcliffe was confirmed and walked into the building from the prior administration. It's on other agency apps. And so, no, of course I don't want it all out there because these were conversations back and forth that you should be able to have confidentially. But what you also saw was a healthy policy debate in how we were going to achieve this for the president, what would be the results, what should be the timeline. And I think, again, I am fortunate to work for this president. I am fortunate to help him execute this vision and incredibly fortunate to have this team around him.
But there's no classified information in this exchange.
No classified information.
But you'd prefer it not to be
Of course.
out.
That'd be, do you want everything?
No, well,
right.
I don't work for the government. I mean,
Yeah.
this is why these.
Right.
That's why texting in general is for in government situations.
Again,
is
as
difficult.
the president
I think
said,
he
if
was
we could
right
all
today.
stay in the same
Yeah.
room, but when we've got
But he's always been
people
like that.
moving,
Yeah.
right? As he said again today, I mean, that would be his preference.
Yeah.
I think all of our preference. But when he has people all over the world and we're coordinating these complex operations, we're moving at Trump speed, fast, doing all of this. We're cleaning.
This is what I deduce from his explanation. We just played the Trump card, okay? We just play the Trump card. Because the fact is, as much as you could say you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, today's Republican Party, the fact is the OG, the legend, Donald J. Trump, is holding the Republican Party together. Now, of course, we have stars coming up like Vivek, Ron DeSantis, a lot of stars in the Republican Party. However, the Make America Great Again voters, the MAGA base, most likely would say, if the president doesn't see anything wrong with it, all right, I'm wrong with that. So I think that's what Mike Waltz is banking on, saying, you know what, if I just play the Trump card and say, you know what, I'm just trying to make sure I do the bidding of the president and make sure we accomplish his goals for him. And nobody's giving Trump the credit for the border. As long as you keep it on Trump, nobody's really gonna, especially the MAGA voters, they wouldn't really care about, your F up like that. Which I think it's a smart move to play that way, but F up is a F up. And I think Mike Waltz, I think he knows this is it. This is a L. But I like the fact that it's playing this smart. It's playing the Trump card. It is what it is. It is politics. So yeah.
I mean, we're doing 5 or 6 legacy-defining things in the first month, and we're cleaning up multiple Biden messes from the Middle East to Europe to the mess of our border. All at once, at the same time.
You don't need any distractions. You don't need any side stories or distractions.
Yep.
And I think people are watching this. Most Americans don't. They want the answers, the bottom line.
Yep.
About Russia, about Ukraine, about China. But they read stuff like, oh, wait, there was a 2023 DOD memo that said you shouldn't use Signal. And yet you hear Ratcliffe today saying, well, it was commonly used. So doesn't there need to be a standard across the board?
Absolutely.
Just don't use any of these apps. But then how do you communicate when you're not in a skiff?
Well, and that's what you heard Elon talking about, kind of the mess that is government communications. I could tell you, members of that team, I've been very frustrated about, the quality of our communications. We are working to address that. So one of the things that DOGE is doing is improving our IT, is improving our ability to communicate. And to the extent we get everybody in the same room, always better.
Yeah, it's always better. But you've never met Goldberg. He's out there saying you guys have met in the past, but you've never met him.
No idea. Wouldn't know him if I bumped into him, if I saw him in a police lineup. Do now. Knew him by reputation about lying about the president over and over again. What I can tell you for certain, certainly wasn't reaching out or talking to him at all. Why would I?
Yeah, well, he's been one of the most vociferous, vituperative, so-called journalists out there in the Atlantic.
Well, near and dear to my heart as a veteran is lying about Gold Star families who love this president, veterans who love this president, and are thanking God he's president and commander-in-chief once again. And then you have a defense secretary who this morning I was talking to is working out with the Navy SEALs out in Honolulu, leading improving morale, improving recruiting, improving lethality, and working with DOGE to improve efficiency and get our warfighters back to meritocracy, mission focus. I mean, again, Laura, this team believes in this president. This team likes each other, knows each other, is working. Was there a mistake? Absolutely. We're going to improve it. We're going to fix it. And we're going to move forward to achieve the president's agenda.
Why was Bessent on this text chain? I was curious about that. There's just like little things like, why would Scott Bessent?
Because you have a sanctions regime. This is, again, right? You had Biden just literally, they would swarm our destroyers with drones, cruise missiles, UAVs. At first, he would allow them to just shoot them down, then pinprick attack, then 4 months would go by, shut down shipping. 75% of global commerce is getting rerouted. The world owes the president a favor, or excuse me, a thank you for taking this on and fixing this problem. And that is dry up their money, dry up their supply chain from Iran, hold Iran accountable, go after the missiles, go after the leadership. If you're going to move against a terrorist group, you take them out. And that's exactly what this team was doing.
I was actually relieved to see the nature of the exchange among you. I mean, it's kind of cool for regular people just to see, okay, how do these decisions get made with the president and the, obviously Miller is representing the president. But I actually thought it was really refreshing to see how you all seem to have mutual respect. No one's like blowing off another person's opinion. And none of us know anything about how decisions were made in the Biden administration. Nothing.
Well,
or if he was even
or
there.
Who was deciding, not how decisions were made, who was actually deciding, because clearly it wasn't him. But you see this healthy back and forth, this respectful back and forth, different points of view. But at the end of the day, we're executing the president's vision, the president's direction, keeping it all coordinating and moving at Trump warp speed to do it all at once. I mean, not only have the media been on their back foot and the Democrats been on their back foot, all of our adversaries are on their back foot in terms of how to respond to him and the pace with which he moves.
Are we going to end this Ukraine war soon?
We just had the next step today. We've had an energy aerial ceasefire. We just defined what those targets that are now off limits on both sides are to de-escalate that. Now we're going to the Black Sea. The president's determined to end the war. And even, Laura, I mean, you have the NATO Secretary General, NATO, looking at the president in the Oval Office saying, you broke the logjam. Just months ago, no one was talking. Now we're going from, if this war will ever end, an endless war of people, treasure, and material, to now how it will end. And of course, the people that were in the endless war camp are going to criticize how this president is going to end it. But he is going to drive it to an end, and it's an honor to be part of it.
And lessons learned after the app. We're not using Signal app anymore.
Yeah, right. Lesson learned number one is you've got journalists out there who have made fame and fortune trying to trash this president. Yeah. And so, look, we've got to tighten up.
So according to Laura Ingraham, she says lessons learned, meaning she's trying to signal to Mike Waltz, like, you know what, just say, lessons learned, we're never going to use that again, and I take full responsibility, which he already did. And I mean, everybody knows this isn't like something to be proud of, for sure. Even if Laura is a Republican, she voted for Trump. She's interviewing him and she's letting him know, no more this, because this is an L. Everybody knows this is an L. But the fact that Mike just, threw in the Trump card, I think it's smart, but it's still a hell.
We are tightening up, and we have some of the best technology minds looking at how this happened.
Well, it's happened to the best of us, but President Trump just needs no distractions. He needs to, pedal to the metal.
And Laura, it's the honor of a lifetime to work for him.
Well, I really appreciate your coming in. There's a kind of a confusing set of facts, and thank you very much, sir.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
All right, thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. Reporting straight from, what country would you like me to be reporting from? What's his name? Hattrick. He says, what country are you in right now? I mean, country could I be in? Haiti. I think most people would think I'm in Haiti right now. Or maybe Kenya. Or maybe Pretoria, where Elon Musk was born. But I asked in the comment section, name 3 damages the Trump administration has done. We haven't seen 3 damages. He said, He's more than happy seeing other people suffer, but the moment his life is compromised because of Trump, bunch of shit. Like, the federal employees who voted for Trump and lost their jobs, is he shutting it down? Of course, he has no 3 damages, just a bunch of words, like everybody else. Goddamn liberals. All right, here we go.
We found you overdosed in a parking lot at the gas.
All right, fentanyl in America. Fentanyl in the United States.
Okay. You weren't breathing?
Addiction is very painful. It hurts.
It changed my whole chemistry and my way of thinking.
I wanted to be clean so bad, but it's just too hard.
I thought, this is my poor daughter. What happened to you? What happened to you?
Where are you?
Where are you? But I know she was always in.
It's hard when you have an addict in the family. It's hard for sure.
There.
Okay, this may be sad for some people. I don't want to take some people back, but seek help if you need help. But moving forward.
Let's talk with President Trump's former national security advisor, John Bolton. I should note, sir, you have already blasted these officials for using Signal. You say it's not as secure government telecommunications, and that we shouldn't believe folks who are trying to make us think that. So what is your reaction to the CIA director defending the use of Signal by testifying this morning that Signal was loaded onto his CIA computer? It was, quote, permissible to use to communicate and coordinate for work purposes, provided that any decisions that are made are also recorded through formal channels.
Well, I'd like to know who put it on his computer and when, and why didn't they have another review? We've seen reports just a few days before this group was set up. The Department of Defense sent a memo around saying Signal was very vulnerable. I think the key point here is the United States government over decades has spent billions of dollars to create the world's most secure telecommunications capabilities. And why these senior officials, virtually all of whom are 24/7 able to get onto a secure phone, a secure video, a secure computer, why they would shift off of that for any reason to any commercial system. That's the original sin. Everything else after that just makes things worse. But why anybody would use Signal for any purpose, I can't understand. And if the argument is, well, they did it in the Biden administration, I mean, that's practically a recommendation not to do it. They just accept everything Joe Biden's administration did. That's quite an argument.
Yeah, they don't like many things that Joe Biden's administration did. That's very clear. Okay, so that's the original sin. But then the one that is causing a lot of the fallout here is Secretary Hegseth putting all of these operational details into the group chat. Should Jeffrey Goldberg, the reporter who was inadvertently added to the group chat and is privy to these details, should he publish them? He had refrained from printing them because of security reasons, but now you have administration officials minimizing those details being on this platform. Should he publish them?
Well, Tulsi Gabbard at least testified there was no classified information in the chain. So that should be a defense in court if the Justice Department were to try and prosecute Goldberg. They could ask for the information back. I think they know that it's classified, and I think, frankly, some of the information published in the Atlantic article was classified. For example, the argument it's made by several people that Europeans and Egypt, I think, were included, are going to have to pay for the outcome of the operation against the Houthis in Yemen to clear the Red Sea maritime passage. Now, I'll guarantee when they read that in European capitals in Cairo today, they said, what? So I think it's like many instances of classification. That would be classified until we actually told the governments or made it public. But when it's made public before we're prepared to do it, I think that almost certainly was classified in and of itself. The whole point of staying in the government-approved secure channels is you can say anything you want. You can talk about today's newspapers. You can talk about top secret code word information. You can talk about anything in between. You don't worry about it. Once you're on Signal, once you're on any non-governmental, non-secure channel, you're at risk of saying something if you're not careful. And what I think is additionally worthy of investigation here is, was this the first rodeo? Was this the first Signal app group chat in the national security space? You can't tell from the article. I have a feeling it may not have been, and I think that makes it potentially even more serious.
There is some hair splitting going on over what is classified and under what authority or under what agency. Let's listen to what Tulsi Gabbard said about that.
Senator, I can attest to the fact that there were no classified or intelligence equities that were included in that chat group at any time.
So,
and I
so the
defer,
attack sequencing and timing and weapons and targets you don't consider should have been classified?
I defer to the
classified?
Secretary of Defense and the National Security Council on that question.
Now, to be clear, Gabbard and Ratcliffe seem to be leaning on this distinction that they say this was not intelligence community classified information. Ratcliffe went on to say the Secretary of Defense is the original classification authority for the DOD and deciding what would be classified information. We've heard him talk to the press and say there wasn't classified information, which I guess would be a Jeffrey Goldberg defense in court. But what is your read there on what Gabbard and Ratcliffe are doing, kind of splitting those hairs?
Well, they're trying to cover their posteriors. I think they're very worried. I think they know there was classified information in that chat. This business.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Somebody spoke about, I asked for 3 damages the Trump administration has done. Somebody spoke about EPA. Somebody spoke about tariffs. And they spoke about firing tens of thousands of vets and government employees. So that is supposed to be 3 damages. Well, for tariffs, tariff is not damaging the economy of the United States. Tariff was a way, matter of fact, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, the United States made the most income through tariff. The federal government of the United States made money, like their main primary income was through tariff. So when you say tariff is going to damage the economy, that's false. So you need to go do your research on tariffs, okay? And your number 2 was firing tens of thousands of vets, which I guess you are attributing to DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. These folks don't even go to work. They work from home. And some of them are not even real people, according to the file that we saw Elon read out, and most of the people in the cabinet of Trump. And for 3, EPA rollbacks. EPA has always been what? Environmental Protection Agency. So it's like what? Protecting the environment? And yet you're burning Tesla? You want to protect the environment, yet a man who's building cars to save your environment, you're burning down his cars. Man, please.
About who has original classification authority is important when things are classified, but once somebody classifies it, then it's classified, and it doesn't matter whether it was Tom, Dick, or Harry. So I think what they've said, at least in earlier parts of their testimony, though, remember, this is a statement to Congress. I don't know whether they were sworn in or not.
And this is why I love talking to people when, you know, the highly educated Democrats are going to say, well, the people that vote for Republicans are illiterates. And the people who vote for Trump especially are way bigger illiterates. That's why he won. And that's why a Republican will win in 2028 and 2032. Because the Democrats are going to say, well, the people who vote for these guys are illiterates. Okay. Professional, PhD holder, Why did you vote for Biden? You had the worst economy under Biden. You were sending billions of munitions to Ukraine. You had the highest mortgage rate, highest interest rate under Biden. Trump had the lowest mortgage rate in years in 2019. He's going to do it again. So just relax, okay? Relax. All right?
But under Title 18, the U.S. Code, Section 1001, a false statement to a government official, including committees of Congress, can constitute perjury. So I think they're very nervous, and they are trying to split hairs in a sense and say, well, we don't know what the stuff that Hegseth sent out was. And I think Hegseth's response when he was first told about this is the kind of denial that you see from Donald Trump right on through, nothing to see.
The fact is, the Democrat that talk like this, people saying the Republicans or people who vote for Trump are illiterate. They make winning easy for Trump and Republicans. Because when you talk to people who work hard every day, who go to work, who provide for their families, who contribute to their society, you tell them that they're not educated because someone comes and say, we need a secured border. We don't want men and women's sport. You call them illiterate. You call them, you call those people, you say, oh, you don't want people coming into our country. You are an illiterate. Oh, you don't want men and women's sport. You are an illiterate. That's why Trump won the election. You haven't learned your lesson. Well, see you in 2028. Another Trump pulling up on y'all.
Here, then there is no answer to the point, well, if it's not classified, why don't you just publish it?
And so really quickly before I let you go, they were asked questions about the specifics of those operational details, and that's when we started hearing the I don't recall or the very careful answers. They said, I do not recall. These were, we should remind people, texts that were exchanged, I think, 10 to 12 days ago, like within the last 2 weeks. Is that believable to you, all of those I do not recalls?
From the people saying, I don't recall at that testimony, I'm not at all surprised. Look, I think the main thing here, these people are not going to get in any trouble. They're not going to be disciplined. They're not going to be investigated by the Justice Department unless and until Donald Trump feels some heat for it. And he doesn't feel any yet.
Ambassador Bolton, thanks so much for being with us.
All right, my excellent reporters are back. Leanne, you're on the Capitol every day with me. What do you expect to actually happen in the Capitol? I mean, you heard Roger Wicker, chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Mm-hmm. He indicated that there's going to be some level of investigation. There'll probably be some classified briefings. But will this go as far as what Democrats want?
No.
Which is a full-blown probe.
Absolutely not. Speaker Mike Johnson gave the signal very clearly just now that this is something that does not need to be discussed anymore. It was something that's corrected, ignoring the fact that these are the top national security advisors in the country, and they know how to discuss very important information, including attack plans. But talking about mistakes, I spoke to a member of Congress this morning, Representative Ralph Norman, and I asked him about this, and he's taking his cues from Pete Hegseth, and he's saying, well, we don't even know if this is true. And so
there's a subpoena to figure that out, perhaps.
Right.
Then you can learn if it's
Okay. Time out, everybody. So you guys are telling me now that Joe Biden was better. Wait. I must be German. So you're saying you would have preferred Joe Biden or Kamala Harris to be your president right now, your commander-in-chief right now? Of course not Joe Biden, because we know Joe Biden is not president, was never president, was going into the Amazon rainforest. Kamala Harris. So you think, you think Kamala Harris would be doing better right now? That's what you truly believe in your heart, that Kamala Harris would be doing better right now.
True, if you wanted to learn if it was true.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of obfuscation here and dismissal. And of course, there's a lot of Republicans who don't want to criticize or get in the way of the president.
Yeah, and the question is who also could investigate this? Yes, there's Congress. It doesn't sound like there might be one, certainly not in the House, maybe in the Senate. We'll see if anything changes over the next 24 hours or so. But who else could investigate this? Inspectors General? Well, a lot of them have been dismissed, and that's also being litigated in court, the legality of those dismissals. But the Department of Justice, we know there's an FBI run by Trump loyalists, and will they actually go further and look into this? It doesn't seem that way. Could the White House counsel's office do this? Jeff, what is the White House?
Everybody, every single Democrat keeps talking about every time Democrats gets in power, the economy gets better. Every time the Republican gets in power, the economy is bad. Guess how they're calculating a great economy? When they check the debt ceiling, they'll be like, oh, the Republicans always add a lot of debt. The Democrats don't add too much debt. It's like a business owner, okay? You could be successful on paper, but then struggling in real life. That is the Democrats and the Republicans. For the Democrats, you're successful on paper. The Dems, okay? You are going to be successful on paper, but suffering, okay? But Republicans, you literally are living life. Affordability, gas prices, affordable. Electricity, affordable. Now, you might, rack in some debt federally, but your life would be easier. I mean, Jesus. He's now started ways to pay off debt. Now, as of last week, ladies and gentlemen, the United States has sold out 1,000 gold cards, which is what? $5 million each, ladies and gentlemen. The Trump administration has sold 1,000 gold American card, which is a path to citizenship. Last week, they sold 1,000, and that's $5 million each. And when Trump was asked, what is this for? What is this initiative all about? He said, it is because we are trying to pay down our debt. Yeah. I'd rather stay in the Trump economy than anybody else's economy.
They said they're going to look into this to some extent. What do we expect from the White House to review what happened here?
I mean, there's no doubt that this is viewed, I think, in the president's words, as the only glitch of the administration. So it is viewed as a mistake inside the White House, despite the fact that the CIA director would not even go that far. But we shall see what the review is. We heard yesterday from White House officials. I talked to them. They said there is going to be a review of how much signal is used. It's become, almost as commonplace as picking up the telephone to have a conversation with someone or to send an email. It was used obviously a lot on the presidential campaign.
Oh my goodness! I just gave you the explanation, bro. You are successful on paper when the Democrats are in there, all right? But actual real life success, let a Democrat get in power.
Some of these
let
threads
a Republican get in power.
Are still active. So there is going to be apparently a review of that. The White House press secretary this morning said that the White House counsel's office is sort of looking into some protocols and advising people. But the reality is they're going to try and move on from this and downplay it. So I'd be very surprised if to Susan's point earlier, there would have already been a special prosecutor. There would have already been an investigation. Phones would have been examined and seized and things, and time is over for that. But I think in the we don't know how this will impact the president. He sees coverage. It takes a few days, but he will be agitated by this.
Yeah,
and we don't know what the ultimate reaction will be.
We haven't really heard from the president much at all. I mean, yesterday in the aftermath of the story breaking, he said he hadn't reviewed it, which seems, for someone who consumes news the way he does, quite remarkable. He said he hasn't seen it, but we have not heard much from the president on this yet.
We haven't, but he does watch coverage. We do know that. And I also think it's important to note that Democrats are not powerless in this moment. I was speaking to one of my sources, a Democratic strategist, and what in some corners, they are hoping to see are Democrats withhold their votes for anyone related to national security in this moment, or vote no on every single cloture vote until Thune agrees to a real investigation. They can play hardball here.
Will they?
Will they? Democratic voters have been demanding it. So let's see if they capitulate again or if they use every available mechanism to really stick it to Republicans.
Shoot, Local is back in the building, yo. Oh, yeah. Local, get them, bro. Get them. Local is about to get y'all real fast. Y'all going back and forth. Okay, so what do we have here?
Secretary Hegseth there saying that nobody was texting war plans. Given you were privy to this group chat, is that how you saw?
So this is the guy who leaked and told the world the Trump administration is leaking war chat. Ladies and gentlemen, I was added to the chat. This is the guy.
No, that's a lie. He was texting war plans. He was texting attack plans. When targets were going to be targeted, how they were going to be targeted, who was at the targets, when the next sequence of attacks were happening. I didn't publish this, and I continue not to publish it because it felt like it was too confidential, too technical, and I worry, honestly, that sharing that kind of information in public could endanger American military personnel. But no, they were plans for the attack. And they were texted before the attack.
And there were things texted that you viewed as so sensitive, you did not even publish them in your report today.
I made the decision that the technical aspects of this, including what kinds of weapons packages, the attack sequencing, and so on, that's not necessarily in the public interest. What's in the public interest is that they were running a war plan on a messaging app and didn't even know who was invited into the conversation. I mean, it's an obvious, ridiculous security breach. And, you know, he if you notice, he didn't actually answer the question.
But his attempt at a denial also stood out to me because no one that I talked to at the White House today argued this or tried to say these were, you know, misconstrued or altered or this is not real. I mean, the National Security Council confirmed the veracity of it.
The National Security Council, I asked various officials, including Pete Hegseth this morning, for comment. And the first question I had for everyone is this real? I wanted to make sure, obviously, before we go public, and say, are you sure that this is not a disinformation campaign run by a foreign state, a non-state actor of some sort, trying to target a journalist for reasons I couldn't explain? And they're like, no, this is apparently a real channel, and I appreciate them telling the truth about that, and we published.
Did they seem alarmed when you reached out for comment?
Probably is not the happiest day that they experienced in the White House so far, but they were professional about it.
I thought that as you were kind of walking through when this began, you weren't even sure if it was real yourself. You thought maybe I'm being spun or conned or something's happening here?
Until the day that I received the attack plan from Pete Hegseth at 11:44 a.m., that's Saturday, March 15th, and then saw the attack plan said that 1:45 p.m. Eastern time, that the first bombs would be dropping in Yemen. Until that moment, until that period elapsed, the 2-hour period between that text and the first bombs being dropped, I thought it was a hoax. I thought somebody was trying to entrap me. Again, could it have been a foreign intelligence service? Could it have been a gadfly organization that tries to entrap journalists, which we know happens? I didn't know what it was or who it was, but what I did know was that the obvious answer was that this is a real conversation of the national security leadership of the United States. Seemed improbable to me because why would they do it on Signal? Why would they do this on a messaging app? And why would they invite the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic to watch?
And how many people were on this chat?
18.
And did any of them at any point when you were included in here ever raise that question, why are we talking about this over Signal?
No, nobody raised the question, why are we talking about this over Signal? And nobody said, hey, who is JG? You know, because you show up in a little bubble as your initials. And no one at any point said, who's JG? And when I withdrew from the group, you formally remove yourself. You hit a button. It says JG has removed himself from the group. I assumed that somebody would say, hey, who just removed himself from the group? Nothing.
You didn't hear from Mike Waltz or anyone else after that?
No, nothing at all. I mean, it's a level of incuriosity. I guess that's the polite way of saying it. It's a level of recklessness that I have not seen in many years of reporting on national security issues.
And so you eventually remove yourself from the chat.
Right. Once I was sure that it was real.
But after you've seen everything, I mean, you published these messages.
Well, I don't know what I haven't seen since then. But yes, I removed myself and I started writing the story.
That's
in
fair.
order to expose the security breach.
And some White House reporters today were saying, maybe I would have never removed myself from that.
You know, these are tough questions. But I can't go into it, all the decision making involved in this. But I found out what I needed to find out. A, that it was real, and B, that it did represent the kind of gap, the Mack truck-sized gap in their security that I could never have imagined a White House experiencing.
I mean, because you're a reporter, and probably a worse nightmare to have someone included on a chat, but a foreign adversary or someone who wanted to do real harm to the United States. I think that's the concern that is so obvious.
Look, I say this only half jokingly. I mean, I'm sitting in a Safeway parking lot watching my phone, realizing, oh my God, this might be real. I think Pete Hegseth just sent this group actual targeting information, actual sequencing of an attack. And I'm holding on to the phone. I don't want anybody to... And then I thought to myself, well, I mean, I guess they're lucky they didn't send this to a Houthi by mistake, or to a foreign diplomat, or to somebody who would plausibly be in one of their phones. I guess that counts as a kind of luck. That's why they're not supposed to use open source, privately owned messaging services. They're supposed to keep all those conversations on what they call the high side. That's the classified side, where only government officials who are cleared to talk about this stuff get to talk about it. That's why they have that.
You typically can't even download signal to a classified device that they issue at the Pentagon,
Right.
for example. Was there anyone in the group chat who surprised you that you were wondering why would they be included in this conversation?
Well, it was an interesting chat. It wasn't just CIA or intelligence officials, not just defense officials. The Secretary of State was there, the Secretary of Treasury was there, the White House Chief of Staff was there, White House political aides like Stephen Miller, I believe, was there. It was a pretty broad group, given that the level that it was at. It was just a kind of an all-encompassing coordination group for a specific action. I would say, to answer your question, I've been surprised by most aspects of this story since I first got invited into the Signal chat.
I mean, what?
So, of course, he finds a way to come to mainstream media to say, I got added to a chat. Everybody, come see me. You know, even talking about this is not right for Americans. Because if you think about it, you're letting the world see that this happened. But what if it was a Houthi that got the message? So what? You're trying to incite what? What are you trying to incite? I don't get it. But it happened, so this is what needs to be talked about. Moving forward, this has to be prevented.
What have you heard today? I mean, I was getting blown up about this, messages of people saying that they couldn't believe what they were reading in your piece. What did you hear from people today?
That they couldn't believe what they were hearing in the piece. I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm very interested, obviously, in what the professionals say about this, professional reporters who cover these issues like I have, people who have been in government. And it's a combination of extreme bad luck. How could you possibly invite the editor of The Atlantic into your chat? What are the chances of that? And also just real anxiety and anger, both about the sloppiness. Remember, American service people were involved directly in this attack. It wasn't just standoff weapons fired from 1,000 miles away. But you can't just put out this kind of information. and hope for the best. The other piece that people are upset about, and there's a lot of military people feel this way, is like, hey, we have guidelines about how we're supposed to handle sensitive information. We have to pass tests every year on this. We get punished if we leave something on a desk. We get punished if we don't put it in a safe. What's going to happen here? These guys are just chatting. They're sitting, on the weekends in their homes, at stores, at restaurants, on their phones, and what's going to happen? They're wondering if there's a couple of, a double standard.
What did you make of the argument that, which we keep hearing from officials, this revealed the thoughtful and deliberative process that they went through? Because there was disagreement over how to proceed, which I want to ask you about in a moment. But what did you make of that, saying this actually just reveals how this process works?
It does. It does. I mean, that was part of the interesting part of the reporting for me, was that, oh, wow, we just found out that J.D. Vance really disagrees with the president on this particular issue. J.D. Vance made a compelling argument. Other people countered the argument. What was really interesting was that the person designated SM, which I took to be Stephen Miller, shut down that conversation. He said, I heard the president say we're doing this, and we're doing this, and that was the end of the conversation.
For those who haven't read the story, which everyone should, the vice president's disagreement, you said, was clear with moving forward on the strike, because you quoted him as saying, I'm not sure the president is aware how inconsistent this is with his message on Europe right now. There's a further risk that we see a moderate to severe spike in oil prices. I'm willing to support the consensus of the team and keep these concerns to myself, but he was arguing for delaying these strikes.
Yeah, well, what's interesting is that he's saying that he would keep those concerns to himself, but he's basically just told the entire cabinet that he disagrees with the president's decision, and not only that he doesn't think the president understands, that's pretty heavy, doesn't think the president understands the consequences and ramifications. That was very revealing and interesting. I would say, yes, I found the policy dialogue very, very interesting to read. And you could see the different strains of thought in this administration. Ultimately, they came into line and they launched the attack.
Vermont. Thank you. Mr. President, in the last couple of weeks, I've had the opportunity to travel in many parts of our country. And I have been able to talk to folks in Nebraska, in Iowa, Wisconsin, Michigan, Nevada, Colorado, and Arizona.
Bernie.
And what I am hearing from in all of these states, and in fact all over the country, is that our nation right now faces enormous crises, unprecedented crises in the modern history of our country. And how, right now, at this moment, we respond to these crises will not only impact our lives, it will impact the lives of our kids and future generations, and in terms of climate change, the well-being of the entire planet. And Mr. President, what I have to tell you is that the American people are angry at what is happening here in Washington, D.C., and they are prepared to stand up and fight back. In my view, and what I have heard from many, many people, is that they will not accept an oligarchic form of society where a handful of billionaires control our government, where the wealthiest person on earth, Mr. Musk, is running all over Washington, D.C., slashing the Social Security Administration so that our elderly people today are finding it extremely difficult to access the benefits that they paid into, where Mr. Musk and his friends are slashing the Veterans Administration so that people who put their lives on the line to defend us will not be able to get the health care that they are entitled to or get the benefits that they are owed in a timely manner. Slashing the Department of Education slashing USAID. And why is all of this slashing taking place? It is taking place so that the wealthiest people in this country can receive over $1 trillion or an independent. There are very few people in this country who think that you slash programs that working families desperately need in order to give tax breaks to billionaires. Mr. President, I am the former chair of the U.S. Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. And I've had the honor of meeting with veterans in my own state of Vermont, all over Vermont, but all over the country. These are the men and women who put the uniform of this country on and have been prepared to die to defend our nation and American democracy. And these veterans and Americans all over our nation will not accept an authoritarian form of society with a president who undermines our Constitution every day. Every day there's something else out there where he's undermining our Constitution and threatening the very foundations of American democracy. That is not what people fought and died to allow to happen. Mr. President, I am not a historian, but I do know that the founding fathers of this country were no dummies. They were really smart guys. And in the 1780s, they wrote a constitution and established a form of government with a separation of powers, with an executive branch, the president, a legislative branch, the Congress, and a judicial branch. These revolutionaries in the 1780s had just fought a war against the imperial rule of the King of England, who was an absolute dictator, the most powerful person on earth. And these revolutionaries here in America, forming a new government, wanted to make absolutely sure that no one person in this brand new country that they were forming would have unlimited powers. And that is why we have a separation of powers. That is why we have a judiciary, a Congress, and an executive branch. In other words, way back in the 1780s, they wrote a constitution to prevent exactly what Donald Trump is trying to do today. So let us be clear about what is going on. Donald Trump is attacking our First Amendment and is trying to intimidate the media and those who speak out against them in an absolutely unprecedented way, Mr. President. He has sued ABC, CBS, Meta, the Des Moines Register. His FCC is now threatening to investigate NPR and PBS. He has called CNN and MSNBC illegal. In other words, the leader, or the so-called leader of the free world, is afraid of freedom. He doesn't like criticism. Well, guess what? None of us like criticism, but you don't get elected to the Senate, you don't get elected to the House, you don't become a governor, you don't become a president of the United States unless you are prepared to deal with that criticism. And the response to that criticism in a democracy is not to sue the media, is not to intimidate the media, it's to respond in the way you think best. But Mr. President,
He responded by suing the media. That's the best way he knows how to respond.
It is not just the media that Trump is going after. He is going after the constitutional responsibilities that this body, the United States Congress, has. And I will say it amazes me, it really does, how easily my Republican colleagues here in the Senate and in the House are willing to surrender their constitutional responsibilities, give it over to the president. Trump has illegally and unconstitutionally withheld funds that Congress has appropriated. You can't do that. Congress has the power of the purse. We make a decision. We argue about it here. Big debates, vote-a-ramas, the whole thing. Make that decision. That money goes out. The president does not have the right to withhold funds that Congress has appropriated. Trump has illegally and unconstitutionally decimated agencies that can only be changed or reformed by Congress. You don't like the Department of Education? You don't like USAID? Fine. Come to the Congress. Tell us what reforms you want to see. You do not have the right to unilaterally do away with these agencies. Trump has fired members of independent agencies and inspectors general that he does not have the authority to do. But, Mr. President, it is not just the media that he is trying to intimidate. It is not just the powers of Congress that he wants. Now, in an absolutely outrageous, unconstitutional, and extraordinarily dangerous way, he is going after the judiciary.
There you go.
His view is that if you don't like a decision that a judge renders, you get rid of that judge. You try to impeach that judge. You intimidate judges so that you get the decisions that you want. You know, I'm thinking back now as someone who is not a supporter of the Roberts Court. And I'm thinking about one of the worst Supreme Court decisions that has ever been rendered, and that is Citizens United. I'll say more about that in a moment. And I'm thinking about the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, taking away American women's right to control their own bodies. In my view, these were outrageous decisions, unpopular decisions. But it never occurred to me, because maybe I'm old-fashioned and conservative, and I believe that you live by the rule of law, to say, hey, look at the decision Roberts made. We're going to impeach him. No, we try to elect a new president who's going to appoint new Supreme Court justice. That is the system that people have fought and died to defend. But it's not just the movement toward oligarchy, which is outraging millions of Americans, Democrats and Republicans, by the way. And it's not just the movement toward authoritarianism that we are seeing. The American people, especially with Mr. Musk and 13 billionaires in the Trump administration running agency after agency, the American people are saying as loudly as they can that they will not accept a society of massive economic and wealth inequalities where the very richest people in our country are becoming much richer while working families are struggling to put food on the table. Having gone all over this country, I can tell you that the American people are sick and tired of these inequalities, and they want an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. You know, Mr. President, we deal with a whole lot of stuff here in the Congress, and, you know, virtually all of it is important in one way or another. But let's do something, you know, fairly radical today. let's try to tell the truth, the real truth, about what is going on in our society today. Something that we don't talk about too much here in the Senate. We don't talk about it too much in the House. We don't talk about it too much in the corporate media. But the reality is that today we have two Americas, two very, very different Americas. And in one of those Americas, the wealthiest people have never, ever had it so good. In the whole history of our country, the people on top have never, ever had it so good as they have it today. Today, we have more income and wealth inequality than there has ever been in the history of America. Now, I know we don't discuss it. You don't see it much on TV. You don't hear it talked about here at all. But the American people do not believe that it is appropriate that three people, 1, 2, 3, Mr. Musk, Mr. Bezos, and Mr. Zuckerberg, three Americans own more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million people. Really? Three people own more wealth than 170 million people? Anybody here think that is vaguely appropriate? And by the way, those very same three people, three richest people in America, were right there at Trump's inaugural, standing right behind the president. So you want to know what oligarchy is? I know there's some confusion out there. What is oligarchy? Well, it starts off when you have the three wealthiest people in the country standing right behind the president when he gets inaugurated. The top 1% in our country now own more wealth than the bottom 90%. CEOs make 300 times more than their average worker. And unbelievably, real inflation accounted for wages today, the average American worker, if you can believe it, despite a massive increase in worker productivity, is lower today than it was 52 years ago. And during that period, there was a $75 trillion transfer of wealth that went from the bottom 90% to the top 1%. That is the reality of the American economy today. And you know what? Maybe we might want to be talking about that. And in our America today, in that top America, that one America, the 1% are completely separate and isolated from the rest of the country. You think they get on a subway to get to work? You think they sit in a traffic jam for an hour trying to get to work? Not the case. They fly around in the jets and the helicopters that they own. They live in their mansions all over the world in their gated communities. They have nannies taking care of their babies. They don't worry about the cost of child care. And they send their kids to the best private schools and colleges. Sometimes they vacation, not in a Motel 6, not in a national park, but on the very own islands that they have. And on occasion, for the very, very richest, just to have, for a kick, have a little bit of fun, maybe they'll spend a few $1 million flying off into space in one of their own spaceships. Sounds like fun. But it's not just income, massive income and wealth inequality that we're dealing with today. We have more concentration of ownership than ever before. While the profits on Wall Street and corporate America soar, a handful of giant corporations dominate sector after sector, whether it's agriculture, transportation, media, financial services, et cetera, et cetera. Small number of huge corporations, international corporations, dominating sector after sector. And as a result of that concentration of ownership, they are able to charge the American people outrageously high prices for the goods and services we need. Mr. President, we don't talk about it too much. Maybe we should. But there are three Wall Street firms, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, that combined are the major stockholders in 95% of our corporations. Got that? 3 Wall Street firms, 3, are the major stockholders in 95% of American corporations. So, Mr. President, that is one America. People on top doing phenomenally well. Not only do they have economic power, they have enormous political power. That's what's going on there. They live like kings. That's one America, but there is another America. And in that other America, 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. And millions of workers from one end of this country to the other are trying to survive on starvation wages. And unlike Donald Trump, I grew up in a family that lived paycheck to paycheck, and I know the anxieties that my mom and dad have living in a rent-controlled apartment. Can we afford to buy this? Why did you buy that? And that's the story taking place all over America. What does living paycheck to paycheck mean? It means that every single day, millions of Americans worry about how they're going to pay their rent or their mortgage all over the country. Rents are skyrocketing, and people are wondering, what happens? What happens to me and my kids if rent goes up by 20%? And I can't afford it. Where do I live? Do I have to take my kid out of school? Where do I put my kid? In worst case scenario, do I live in my car? Let's be clear. There are many people who are working today who are living in the back of their cars. How do I pay for child care? Talked to a guy the other day, a police officer, spending $20,000 a year for child care. How do I buy decent food for my kids when the price of groceries is off the charts? What happens if I get sick, or my kid gets sick, or my mother gets sick, and I got a $12,000 deductible, and I can't afford to go to the doctor? How, at the end of the month, am I going to pay my credit card bill, even though I am being charged 20 or 30% interest rates by the usurious credit card companies? People are worrying about simple things. What happens if my car breaks down and the guy at the repair shop says it's going to cost $1,000, and I don't have $1,000 in the bank? And if I don't have a car, how do I get to work? And if I don't get to work, how do I have an income? And if I don't have an income, how do I take care of my family? Those are the crises that millions of Americans are experiencing today. But it's not just working age Americans. Today in our country, half of older workers have nothing in the bank as they face retirement. And they're watching TV and they're saying, Mr. Musk firing Social Security workers and actually worrying whether Social Security will be there for them. And it's not just older workers with nothing in the bank wondering what happens when they retire. 22% of seniors are trying to survive on $15,000 a year. I dare anybody in this country, let alone somebody who's old, who needs health care, needs to keep the house warm, try to survive on $15,000 a year. And there are people here, by the way, talking about cutting Social Security. Mr. President, it is not just about income and wealth inequality. It is about a health care system which everyone in the nation understands is broken, is dysfunctional, and is outrageously expensive. I hear my Republican friends, I don't know where they are today, wanting to destroy the ACA. And my Democratic friends say, oh, we got to defend the ACA. ACA is broken. It doesn't work. In my state, the cost of health care is going up 10, 15%. In America today, you got 85 million people uninsured or underinsured. Function of the health care system today is not to do what a sane society would do, guarantee health care to all people in a cost-effective way. Something which, by the way, every other major nation on earth manages to do. The function of our healthcare system, as everybody knows, is to make billions of dollars in profits for the insurance companies and the drug companies. So I say to my Democratic friends, it's not good enough to defend the Affordable Care Act. It's a broken system. You got to have the guts to stand up and allow us to do what every other major nation does: guarantee health care to all people as a human right, not allow the drug companies and the insurance companies to make massive profits every year. And, Mr. President, I want to touch on an issue that gets virtually no discussion, but I think it is enormously important. And it says a hell of a lot about what's going on in our society today. In America, according to international studies, our life expectancy, how long we live as a people, is about 4 years lower than other countries. Most European countries people there live longer lives. Japan, they live even more longer lives than in Europe. So question number one, why is that happening? We spend $14,000 a year per person on health care, almost double what any other country spends, and yet people around the world are living, on average, 4 years longer than we do. But here is the really ugly fact, even worse than that. And that is that in this country, on average, if you are a working class person, you will live 7 years shorter lives than if you're in the top 1%. If you're a working class person, your life will be 7 years shorter than if you are wealthy. In other words, being poor or working class in America today amounts to a death sentence. Mr. President, it's not only a broken healthcare system. We have got to ask ourselves a simple question, and the Biden administration began a little bit of movement in this direction. And that is, why are we living in a nation where 1 out of 4 people can't even afford the prescription drugs their doctors prescribe? Why are we in some cases paying 10 times more than our neighbors in Canada or in Europe? How does that happen? And the answer, of course, has to do with the greed of the pharmaceutical industry and their power right here, all of the campaign contributions that they make, which has prevented us from negotiating prices. But it's not just health care or prescription drugs when we look at what's going on in America. In Vermont and throughout this country, we have a major housing crisis. Here we are, the richest country on earth, 800,000 people sleeping out on the streets, and 20 million people are spending more than 50% of their limited incomes on housing. Can you imagine that? You're a working person spending 50% of your income on housing. How do you have money to do anything else? And the cost of housing is soaring. Do not tell me, Mr. President, that in a nation which could spend $1 trillion on the military, a nation that can give massive tax breaks to the rich, that we cannot build the millions of units of housing that we desperately need. So, Mr. President, why is all of this happening? Why do we have a healthcare system that's broken, prescription drugs that are the most expensive in the world, a housing system, education in deep trouble? Talk to educators in Vermont, all over the country. Talked to a principal the other day from Vermont. Their starting salary at a public school, $32,000 a year. But don't worry, they can't afford to even bring people in because they can't afford the housing in the community. Why have we let education sink to the level that it has? So I think the bottom line of all this, the American people, I think, are catching on. And Mr. Musk, I must thank him because he has made it very clear. We are living in an oligarchic form of society. If anybody out there thinks that Mr. Musk is running around out of the goodness of his heart trying to make our government more efficient, you have not a clue as to what is going on.
There you go.
What these guys want to do is destroy virtually every federal program that impacts the well-being of working people: Social Security, Medicare, postal service, public education, you name it. So they can get huge tax breaks for the rich and eventually make government so inefficient that they will have the ability as large corporations to come in and privatize everything that is going on. So, Mr. President, this is a pivotal moment in American history. And I sense that the American people have had it up to here. They are prepared to fight back. They do not want a government run by billionaires who have it all, whose greed is uncontrollable. You know, we have in Vermont, and I think all over this country, serious problem with addiction, with drugs, people drinking too much alcohol, people smoking too many cigarettes. But the worst form of addiction that this country now faces is the greed of the oligarchy. You might think that if you had $10, $20 billion, it would be enough. You know, kind of enough to let your family live for the next 20 generations. But it's not. For whatever reason, whatever compulsive reason they have, these guys want more and more and more, and they are prepared to destroy Social Security, Medicare, nutrition programs for hungry people in order to get even more. That, to me, is disgusting. So, Mr. President, we are at a pivotal moment in American history. But having been all over this country, or many parts of this country, I am absolutely confident that the American people, and I'm not just talking about Democrats, who are as complicit in the problems that we have right now as are Republicans. Because we got a two-party system which is basically corrupt. You got Mr. Musk over on the Republican side saying to any Republican who dares to stand up and defy the Trump agenda, we are going to primary you. And on the Democratic side, you got AIPAC, and you got other super PACs saying, you stand up for working people, you're in trouble as well. We got a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires are able to buy elections. And that's why all over this country, people are not happy with our two-party system, the Republicans and the Democrats. So, Mr. President, this is a pivotal moment in American history. But we have had difficult moments before. And I am confident from the bottom of my heart that if we stand together and we do not allow some right-wing extremists to divide us up by the color of our skin or our religion or where we were born or our sexual orientation, if we stand together, we can save this country. We can defeat oligarchy. We can defeat the movement toward authoritarianism. And in fact, we can create an economy and a government that works for all, not just a few. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Bernie Sanders. A lot of people would say Bernie has been saying the same thing for years. Why hasn't he changed anything? This is what I hear from people who actually respect Bernie Sanders. I don't know. All right, here we go. Pete Exeth. After the chat.
Good evening, everybody. Just a great day. Any day you're forward deployed with the troops as the Secretary of Defense is a good day. And what we got to see here, starting with PT with Navy SEALs in the morning, which has turned into Smoke the SecDef, more than has PT. The opportunity to see what the Marines are doing here, incredible stuff, training space, jungle school for the Army, with the Air Force capabilities, Space Force capabilities, naval lift. It's all here, and it's all a reflection of America's commitment to the Indo-Pacific and the Trump administration's focus on ensuring that we are doing everything we can to deter conflict with the Communist Chinese, who we don't seek conflict with at all. But we will stand strong in deterrence and will posture troops forward. That's why we're going out to Guam and to see our friends in Japan and the Philippines. We're posturing forward, talking and meeting with commanders who have the capabilities that understand the AOR, talking to friends and allies, and in that, it doesn't get any better than watching troops in action, which is a humbling and an honor for me. So it's been a great day here. and we look forward to many more ahead on this trip as we institute, sort of live out, try to showcase the pivot that President Trump is putting toward the Indo-Pacific, making sure we're properly focusing and prioritizing where we should on peer adversaries to stand strong and reflect deterrence. Reestablishing deterrence is part of what President Trump has compelled me to do, in addition to restoring the warrior ethos and rebuilding our military. And reestablishing deterrence is a big part of why we're here. Happy to take a couple of questions.
Mr. Secretary, thanks. First of all, thanks so much for having me on the trip. That helicopter ride was awesome. I'm sure my colleagues feel the same way. My question's on Taiwan. You mentioned deterrence. Admiral Paparo in his speeches has said that the exercises around Taiwan are not just exercises, but rehearsals for an attack. How concerned are you about China's ability and intent to try and retake the island by force?
Well, Admiral Paparo has said China's rehearsals could potentially always be a rehearsal for an attack. The rehearsals, the exercises, the campaigns we're doing in and around the first island chain are not meant to be the precursor to an attack. We're here to deter. We're here to show strength with our allies, and that includes ensuring that in every possible way American force is projected forward. So we don't want to see a conflict at all. And that's certainly the president's perspective. But we're going to be postured forward and leaning forward as much as necessary to ensure that doesn't happen.
And just a quick follow-up. On the counter diversity, equity, inclusions, what's your assessment now 3 months in trying to undo a lot of those programs?
My assessment is the DOD will be merit-based and colorblind. You will be judged based on how good you are at your job. Full stop. That's it. And so getting rid of diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, getting rid of different standards was fundamental to getting back to basics. And that's what when I get a chance to talk to commanders here, that's what I emphasize. We're getting back to basics. Standards at every level need to be adhered to, and that's at a baseline. And when you talk to soldiers, you talk to Marines, they get it. They get it. They've seen the standards slide under the previous administration. They watched, in many different ways how it eroded, or quotas were being met, or different aspects boxes had to be checked. Not anymore. The only box that gets checked in this Defense Department is lethality and your ability to do your job.
Ellie? Mr. Secretary, the messages the White House called authentic did at the very least include sensitive details about targets and timing. Did you declassify that information before you put it in the chat? And are you using Signal to discuss operations as sensitive as the strikes against the Houthis on a government or a personal phone?
First, all I would say is the strikes against the Houthis that night were devastatingly effective. And I'm incredibly proud of the courage and skill of the troops. And they are ongoing and continue to be devastatingly effective. The last place I would want to be right now is a Houthi in Yemen who wants to disrupt freedom of navigation. So the skill and courage of our troops is on full display. It's a complete opposite approach from the fecklessness of the Biden administration. President Trump said peace through strength will be brought back. Freedom of navigation will return, and that's exactly what we're doing. As I also stated yesterday, nobody's texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
So those same troops that you are proud of, do you regret putting information like the ones you did in the Signal chat that could endanger those same American service members?
Nobody's texting war plans. I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly what we're directing, and I'm really proud of what we accomplished. Successful missions that night and going forward.
So you had a conversation with seniors in the Pecan. So how do you had a conversation with senior officials of Indo-Pacific today and yesterday, and how do you evaluate the importance of Indo-Pacific?
Indo-Pacific is critically important, and Admiral Paparo is a fighting admiral. He's a really smart guy who's exactly where we need him at the tip of the spear. Indo-Pacific is where we need to be focusing. What you will see in the interim national defense strategy from the DOD will focus, make sure we're defending the homeland, including the homeland Oconus here in Hawaii, and that we're postured to focus on the Indo-Pacific. So it's critically important.
One more.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Earlier today at the POWMIA accounting agency, you were taking a tour of the building and you were shown a wall of Medal of Honor recipients whose remains have been recovered over the years. I'm sure it was a very humbling experience. By sheer chance, one of those recipients that was pointed out to you was a Lieutenant Alexander Bonnyman Jr., a Marine who passed away some time ago, fought in World War II, I believe. You said, wait a minute, I know who that is. And it turns out that by just pure happenstance, you obviously went to Princeton, and he also went to Princeton, and you remember studying him back when you were a student there.
Yes.
Can you tell me what that was like, and what a cool story.
It's a cool story. So we were at the Defense Prisoner of War Missing in Action Agency, where they still commit to the legacy of those that have lost on the battlefield, bringing them home, identifying the remains, and making sure the families have that closure. We leave nobody behind. I was looking at the wall, and in this one particular unit, there was a lieutenant who was a recipient of the Medal of Honor. And I looked up and it said Lieutenant Bonnyman, and I just thought, where have I heard that name before? And then I realized at Princeton, there were stars outside some of the windows of the older buildings, and one of those was a window of a dorm I was in, maybe sophomore or junior year. And on that star was Lieutenant Bonnyman. I didn't know who he was. I remember researching, though, his name and that star, because I thought if his name's outside my window, I was probably an ROTC cadet at that point, I want to know who he is. And so they told me a little bit of the story there, and it rang a bell with me. I know I wrote something about him, too, when I'll have to find that and maybe release it. But it was pretty cool to see the connection between someone who I'd heard of as a Medal of Honor recipient, and then the commitment of our country to then go find him in a foreign land and bring him back, so that the whole cycle is sort of complete, and he gets the honor that he deserves. So pretty cool. And it was emblematic of this day today, like watching the troops in real time and then watching the legacy of their service as well played out all here in Hawaii. So it's been great.
All right,
thank y'all.
Like it or not, Pete is growing in his role. This is what I think. He's growing in his role, which is smart. Here goes Pete again.
Well, Admiral, thank you so much. It is great to be here in Hawaii. We started the morning with some Navy SEALs doing PT. You know, we made the decision that we were everywhere we go, we're gonna do PT with the troops, because I remember kind of doing that back when I was a soldier. It started as PT with the troops. It has become smoke the SecDef. Green Berets did it to me out in Germany, and the SEALs did it to me this morning. So we got a great start, a beautiful Hawaii morning. I'm glad to be able to speak with the APCSS Alumni Network here in Waikiki and across the Indo-Pacific, and as was mentioned, around the world. It was also very intentional that this was our first stop to the region as part of this very important messaging. But first of all, thank you so much, Susie, for your leadership. 30 years is quite an accomplishment, and for hosting us on this beautiful morning. And again, thank you to Admiral Paparo for his reputation. His leadership precedes him. He's well known in Washington for all the right reasons, and we have our fighting admiral here in the Indo-Pacific. Appreciate your leadership. I'm honored to speak this morning in the Stackpole Auditorium. It was really neat to do research on this before coming here. Named after Lieutenant General, as you all know, Hank Stackpole. He was a remarkable human being. He was a Marine, a Vietnam combat veteran, the first commander of U.S. Marine Forces Pacific, the first president of APCSS, a fellow Princeton grad, and an American hero. During one of his several tours in Vietnam, General Stackpole, then a captain and a company commander, was struck by an enemy .50 caliber bullet. While being evacuated, his medevac helicopter was shot down. Imagine, I've been wounded, I'm heading out, everything's going to be okay. Now it's not. He was the only survivor among 9 men on board. He crawled out of the wreckage 70 feet before the helicopter exploded. A second helicopter took him to a field hospital where the chaplain read him his last rites. And then he made a miraculous recovery. He earned the Silver Star, fittingly, for his bravery that day. General Stackpole retired in 1994 after nearly 40 years on active duty, but then he continued serving his country, as so many do. In 1998, he became the first president of this organization, and he helped build this institution into the intellectual powerhouse that it is today. Even just seeing the photos in the hallway on the way in that you showed, the reach of what this institution does is critically important. So I would like to give a special thanks to his wife, Mrs. Vivian Stackpole, who is here with us this morning. Ma'am. Thank you to you and your husband for your decades of serving together, particularly here in the Indo-Pacific. As every military family knows, no warrior serves alone. There's always a family alongside who oftentimes, sometimes have an even more difficult job because you don't really know what your loved one is doing, and yet you support them all the way, as you did. And thank you to the audience around the world for the opportunity to speak with you about how the Department of Defense views this region. This is my first time addressing military and civilian leaders in the Indo-Pacific as the Secretary of Defense. Many of you graduated from our premier forum for studying the Indo-Pacific and for building ties among national security leaders who are engaged in this region. Our relationships and our teamwork form the foundation of achieving peace through strength. President Donald Trump has made it clear that we will achieve peace through strength through an America First approach. But America First does not mean America only or America alone, ignoring allies and partners. It means that our military-to-military relationships must make sense for the United States and for our friends. Where there are imbalances, we will fix them, we will find them, and we're going to fix those imbalances. We will right-size the obligations and responsibilities needed for modern deterrence and defense, which is a large part of the conversation the Admiral and my team had yesterday. In some cases, it will require even greater attention to the partnerships that matter the most. And our alliances and partnerships in the Indo-Pacific matter a great deal to the United States. They matter because the Indo-Pacific is the region of consequence. I've tried to demonstrate that with calls to Australia, Japan, South Korea, the Philippines, India, Thailand, Singapore, and many others in my first days as Secretary of Defense. I specifically, and our team directed, those are the folks we want to call first to send the signals of where our focus will be, to establish peace through strength. And with this first trip to the Indo-Pacific, and there will be many more, I'm making stops in the Philippines and Japan after a stopover in Guam as well. But to reiterate, I'm here today because the President has given me, and the American people gave him the mandate to achieve peace through strength. And we're going to do that in three ways, as the Admiral mentioned. Restoring the warrior ethos, rebuilding our military, and reestablishing deterrence. By restoring the warrior ethos, U.S. forces assigned to the Indo-Pacific will be the best trained and best equipped in the world. We've seen great signals in the Pentagon as well, with recruiting numbers at historic levels across the forces as America's young men and women are responding to the leadership of President Trump and want to serve in record numbers in uniform. And we know our opponents are taking notice. Number two, we're going to rebuild our military by optimizing the Department of Defense and the U.S. Defense Industrial Base to rapidly and responsibly deliver the right tools to our warfighters in real time. And we will also deliver those tools rapidly and responsively to our allies and to our partners. There are many opportunities for our defense industries to collaborate. And I'm going to press hard to expand capacity and accelerate deliveries. I can tell you every Minister of Defense and others that I speak to brings up foreign military sales and our ability to deliver those capabilities front and center in those conversations. I was recently with the Commander-in-Chief who reiterated that as a priority of his from the White House. FMF, FMS, the opportunity to get systems in the hands of our allies and partners is a priority of this administration that we're focusing on at this moment. I know this center has also been focused on supply chain security for our weapon systems. When you look at the charts and you understand where too many things are sourced from, you understand the complications that come with that reality. You've also been studying how we can co-produce and co-sustain our platforms and munitions with partners who choose to work with us. So, Susie, please keep up the great work. We need it. It is more important than ever. And finally, as we reestablish deterrence, our charge is simple. We will work with our allies and our partners to deter the communist Chinese and their aggression in the Indo-Pacific. Full stop. By standing shoulder to shoulder with you, our allies and partners, we will put our enemies, our adversaries, those who stand against us on notice. Each ally, each partner, each friend contributes their own unique capabilities to regional deterrence. A renewed focus on deterrence creates advantages for ourselves, our partners, and our allies. And it also does this while creating dilemmas, which is a lot of what we talk about, dilemmas for our adversaries. Our mission is to deter war. But if necessary, we will, together, defeat and destroy our enemies. None of this is new. This is the business that we are in. President Trump's vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific is as true today as it was when he first laid it out in Vietnam in 2017. It's a vision in which all countries prosper side by side as sovereign, independent states. It's a vision in which the United States remains engaged with and invested in and focused on, truly, the Indo-Pacific. It's a vision in which our allies and partners are at the forefront of deterring aggression. To paraphrase the president, I say to all of you who are here with me today and listening from around the region, we have been friends, partners, and allies for a long time. And we will remain friends, partners, and allies for a long time to come. But we need each and every one of our friends and partners and our allies to do their part as well. To be force multipliers alongside the United States of America. That has to be a two-way street. So let us today, through this institution, through our work at Indo-PACOM, recommit ourselves to that. Recommit ourselves to reestablishing deterrence in the Indo-Pacific and to achieving peace through strength by working together, building credible warfighting capabilities, and by doing our part for the peace that we all long for. In closing, no one should question the resolve of the United States of America to defend our interests in the Indo-Pacific and beyond. We will do this through the deterrent power of the strongest, most effective, most lethal fighting force in the world. And that is something this administration is committed to in every capacity. Just last week, I was in the Oval Office, standing next to President Trump when he announced the new sixth-generation fighter, the F-47. The most capable, most lethal, longest range, most stealth fighter jet the world has ever seen. I said to him, and I say to you now, I believe my kids and my grandkids will thank him for having the willingness to make that choice and invest in a platform of that strategic significance, which is needed specifically in this part of the world to continue to maintain deterrence. I hope, and I believe, that message was sent. Supported by and in partnership with capable, like-minded allies and partners, I believe the 21st century, this century we live in right now, can be and should be and will be an American-led, freedom-loving century. That is truly what is at stake. So it's great to meet so many of you here in person and even many more watching virtually online. I want to thank you for what you do. I want to thank you for your time, and I wish Godspeed always to our warriors. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that definitely is Pete Hegseth. And he's growing into his role for sure. All right, Jasmine Crockett, the star in the Democratic Party, in my opinion, threw a shade to Texas governor. Check this out.
Now it's time for WTF, What the Fela. Joining me now, Jimmy Fela, host of Fox News Saturday Night. All right, Jimmy, your friend, I'm talking about your friend, Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She decides to go after Governor Abbott for, get this, being wheelchair bound. Watch.
We in these hot Texas streets, honey. Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now. And the only thing hot about him is that he is a hot mess, honey.
I don't think we should bleep anything out. I think we should play her for actually what she says, but guess we have to bleep it out. Jimmy, your comment.
Well, I mean, Jasmine Crockett is where AOC goes to feel smart, you know? And it's so crazy that she's trying to reinvent herself as like a dumb rapper. She went to fancy school, paid like $30,000 a semester, and now she's basically Cardi B+. She's just a dope. But I'm surprised she referenced Hot Wheels, because that's the kind of toy you have to have friends to play with. And I don't know that anyone wanted to hang out with this dopey chick.
Well, there's a drinking game out there, apparently, that every time she says like, you actually have to do a shot of tequila, and people are drunk all over the country. All right, she came out today to clarify, though, Jimmy, to be fair, saying her comments were about Abbott using planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Do you buy that?
No, she's going with the Shaggy defense. It wasn't me. Do you remember that old song where the guy gets caught doing something? He's like, it wasn't me. Like, what do you think you are, Shaggy? We saw what you said. We know what you were referencing. She's a loser, but she turns 44 this weekend, which is a big milestone because her age matches her IQ. So there you go.
Jimmy, she's having her birthday celebrating by trying to destroy a great American company like Tesla.
Basically.
So that's how she decides to celebrate her birthday. Talk about pathetic. But from one unhinged Democrat to another, now this woman confronted a man, Jimmy, on the subway because he was wearing, wait for it, a MAGA hat. Watch.
He's a racist.
How can I be racist? No, he's not. He's racist. All right, well, this is my stop. I hope you enjoy the hat. Oh, she took a tackle.
Oh, whoops. This is my stop. I hope you enjoy it. And she chases him.
Yeah, I'm going to go out on a limb and say she's not from New York, because if you're from here, you know better than to confront anyone on the subway. With all the time travelers and hobbits we have underground right now. But this is a classic liberal move, trying to take somebody else's property and make it their own. Isn't this USAID in a nutshell? You spend money on this, but we'll do what we want with it.
Oh, no. These people are so filled with rage. They always say conservatives are rage-filled. I've never seen angrier people in my entire life than these people going after the Teslas, screaming at a bunch of liberals who drive Teslas. Not all liberals, but a lot of liberals drive Teslas, which is fine. It's a great car and people love it.
We're not attacking. We're not attacking liberals. We're too busy laughing at them.
Yeah. Hey, I have a question. What do you think of Signalgate, which is what Politico is calling the text chain situation with Waltz and Hegseth, et cetera?
It really is a wild moment, because you got Republicans using Signal, but then you've got Elizabeth Warren using Smoke Signal. And I really don't know who the bad guy is here at this point. But I've seen the Democrats do worse things for our national security than send an encrypted text message to their buddies. So I'm going to side with the Republicans here, with all due respect to the pretendian from Massachusetts.
Yeah, well, Jimmy, we had a president who wasn't even compos mentis for 4 years. And we're talking about national security concerns. These guys were backing up a guy who couldn't get off a stage.
Yeah.
Okay, so, there was a mistake made here, but come on, they don't care about national security. If they did, they wouldn't have had Biden in there and tried to put Kamala in next. Jimmy, Don't get me. You're getting me off my soapbox. Good. Jimmy, thank you, as always. That's it for us tonight. Make sure to follow me on social.
Thank you for tuning into the live show. Make sure to follow me on social as well. Genesis Madhouse, all right? Same thing with my YouTube, everywhere. Telling y'all, man, there's a lot going on. But the most important thing is progress is being made in the Trump administration. Shout out to Sandra. Thank you for tuning into the live stream. You know what time it is, Sandra. God bless you. Yes. Well, we already seen Mike Waltz says, you know what? I take full responsibility for the chat leak. But let's see what the five has to say. Here.
President Trump and National Security Advisor Michael Waltz hitting back against a bombshell report earlier today. The Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, was accidentally added to a group chat with Trump cabinet members on the encrypted app Signal. Goldberg claims he was privy to minute-by-minute war plans about strikes to take out Houthi terrorists in Yemen. Trump and Waltz reacting earlier.
The main thing was nothing happened. The attack was totally successful. This was not classified. Now, if it's classified information, it's probably a little bit different. But I always say you have to learn from every experience. I think it was very unfair the way they attacked Michael. He's a good person. The person that was on just happens to be a sleazebag. Everybody else seems to be using it. It seems to be the #1 used device or app. It was up to me, everybody would be sitting in a room together. The room would have solid lead walls and a lead ceiling and a lead floor. But, you know, life doesn't always let you do that. I don't think he should apologize. I think he's doing his best. It's equipment and technology that's not perfect.
I think there's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president. We've never met, don't know, never communicated with, and we are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room.
Meanwhile, Democrats and the media are demanding heads roll for the mishap.
I was shocked, and I was without words.
Texting war plans, it is something we've never quite seen before. So simple, so easy, so sloppy.
Obviously reckless, obviously dangerous.
It would be comical if it wasn't so serious and so dangerous. It's a completely reckless disregard for protocol.
Just shocking.
This sloppiness, this incompetence, this disrespect.
It is so stunning and so incompetent and so dangerous. My guess is that this is probably the tip of the iceberg.
What should happen here? Should we be saying lock them up?
And even Hillary Clinton is fuming over the story, saying, you've got to be kidding me. Jesse, I like the way the president handled it because I think on something like this, just take it head on, deal with it, and say that obviously he's talked to everybody in the room and maybe we need a new way to communicate in the government. Perhaps Elon Musk can help them with that. But I noted that somebody brought up yesterday, Eric Swalwell is calling on these guys to resign. I'm not sure if that's the best messenger after his troubles.
They sleep with spies. They let spies drive them around. They keep classified documents in open garages while their crackhead son's compromised by the Chinese, and he's in and out of there with girlfriends at the dead of night. Okay. Nobody died except for terrorists. They accidentally put an American reporter on a group chat, and not a good reporter, not our very own stupid son of a bitch, Peter Doocy. They put on the worst reporter in Washington. And he had the story for a week and then dropped it the day before. Basically, half the people on the group text testified. Mm-hmm. So you have that. But listen, it didn't look like anybody was two-faced on the text. Everybody was professional, thoughtful, America first. They were really wrestling with the question over why is the United States ensuring shipping for our allies that are screwing us on trade and not paying their NATO dues? Why are they getting a free ride? What are we getting in return? And that's really going to be the question that America has to ask ourselves in the next 50 years. But how do you get on the text? A staffer accidentally put him on the text. He wouldn't have sabotaged us and put this guy on the text on purpose, but they'll investigate it. I don't know. This is a very transparent administration, and I really like what the president said. He said we screwed up.
Yeah.
Won't happen again. It's not like they had 13 people die and say it was a success, or just blow open the border, get Americans killed, and call it the most secure border ever. But most importantly, Dana, I love the emoji game. American flag, fire, fist bump, good stuff.
Richard, one thing about Goldberg is he waited, yes, until before the hearing, but he also didn't do anything to disrupt the operation or the possible sources and methods of the people who might have been helping inform us to get that done appropriately.
I think that's right. And he also has not released, he hasn't released any screenshots. He's, said, I thought this was classified. I left the chat because I was unsure of what information I was receiving. He did report it. But I think that's sort of noble of him. And listen, I think that Mike Waltz might be a good guy. I can't, attest to his character. But I do believe that, this communication is indeed troubling, that you have a lot of our, top tier national security individuals on this chat, not sure who else is on this chat. And to the president's point, he prefers it to happen in a room that has lead walls and, the room that's more secure. That there is one of those. It's called the Situation Room, and this conversation could have happened there, or it could happen in a SCIF. Right, a secure room. There's tons of them around Washington, D.C. Most of the buildings where these individuals manage their teams have a SCIF. Mm-hmm. They could have done this meeting in person at a SCIF. Beyond that, throughout our national security apparatus, there's tons of different vehicles for this type of secure communications to happen outside of Signal, which all of us have on our phones right now. So there's multiple different ways to do this conversation. So I think the reason why people are reacting the way they're reacting is because they chose a retail app that everybody has on their phone instead of many of the other avenues that exist as part of the federal government apparatus to have this conversation. And I think the reason why folks are saying that maybe a head should roll is because during the Biden administration was critiqued for not firing people fast enough, not saying people made a mistake and they should be let go. And, Donald Trump was sort of, I think he might have a copyright on you're fired. Yeah. Maybe you should use that copyright now to say somebody should, even if it's a junior staffer, for making a mistake like this, because how about if it wasn't a journalist and it was somebody else who wants to compromise the United States? And they're watching all of our top tier national security officials engage in a conversation about how to deal with our foreign allies, or maybe not so our allies, right, in this particular conversation. And that is what it's indeed troubling to me.
Well, I guess if you're a junior staffer and you do this and you have a security clearance, it might jeopardize your job. Yeah. I take the point.
It does jeopardize your job.
Yeah, and you might not be promoted and on and on. So, Judge.
Okay. A couple of things. We're 2 months into this administration, okay? And what you have are people, and what struck me is that what they were saying in this communication on Signal, which is, I understand, the best of the encrypted communications that you can get on a phone, is something that they're saying publicly. And I think that Americans should be comforted by that they aren't saying one thing to the public and then going back behind walls and saying something different. And it's what the president was saying. I mean, the president has been saying, the proxies have to go, the Houthis have to go, Iran is behind it. Everything that the president has been saying is what was in this communication. And they talked about how the Houthis are tying up the trade and making it almost impossible for not just Americans, but for the Europeans. But they were talking about when. Not specific longitude and latitude and all that other stuff. And they were smart enough to say, if you read the article, that let's communicate on the high side, which meant that they recognized that when there were things that were classified, they had to communicate via another instrument. So in addition to that, Trump is clearly, as you said, Dana, he's taking it seriously. We're going to learn from it. Nothing shared was classified. The strikes were successful. No one was hurt. And the truth is that for 4 years, Biden allowed our soldiers to be hit by the Houthis. Several died. Many are suffering from lifelong traumatic brain injuries. And we're seeing transparency in a way that is, I think, people should be comforted by. And in the end, let's make it clear that this particular writer is the one who we know lied about Donald Trump. And so I'm not impressed with him at all. And I like that the president stood up for Mike Waltz. I like that he said, this is a guy who believes in the country, he's working hard, and we're going to keep him. And we all learned.
Greg Gutfeld, last word.
Well, this was bound to happen. There's so many great things happening so fast. at blinding speed. It's overwhelming to the media. It's overwhelming to a lot of people that you almost needed just a misstep to keep the media from committing suicide. Because now they can act like what they really are, hand-wringing journalists. God forbid that they would report on the good things that are going on. They suddenly discover their vocation. You know, when a story, as always, is delivered to them in their laps, and it's not about Democrats, suddenly they get up from their desks, they stop doom scrolling and report the news. I think there's a key point that has been overlooked. Wasn't it preloaded on their phone?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. So what does that tell you? There's no secure government alternative to Signal. There isn't a way for a dozen people to talk on their own timeline, i.e. group chat, as we kids like to call it. Mm-hmm. That's secure. I mean, why is it on the phone? Trump said, yeah, in the perfect world, you'd have it in this separate room, but that doesn't exist if you have 12 people all over the place. But here's the bigger context. When you have the highest possible goal, your aim, and you choose to act on that aim, you incur a risk for error. That's how winners live their lives. But you can avoid that risk for error by doing nothing. Like what Biden did with the border. No act, no foul. Like it has been the bone of contention under Trump. They don't go after his aims because they fall in line with America's aims, so they go after the process. He's going too fast. It's too sloppy. That's because Trump does more stuff in a day than Biden did in his career. So for mistakes to happen, you have to act on an aim, and you have to have a will to act on it, which was missing the last 4 years. Thousands of errors Biden didn't make because the White House was one giant, deliberate act of negligence. You know, they didn't seal the border. They didn't reduce crime. They didn't get men out of women's sports. They didn't fight inflation. No act, no foul, right? Perhaps we were lucky that they ignored the problems. It could have been worse. But Biden made no mistake capturing the Abbey bomber because he didn't try. Mm-hmm. You know, he didn't make any mistakes trying to capture America's 10 most wanted criminals because they didn't try. He didn't make any mistakes when it came to deporting gangs because he didn't try. So for the next 4 years, you will hear of mistakes being made left and right, big ones, little ones, because the aims of the White House are so good, all you have left as an angry media is to go after the process. But Americans know the choice. Do you want a leader with noble aims who will take a risk in the name of America first? There might be some mistakes made. Or do you want a leader who did nothing but oversee the decline of a country, a charade that was collaborated on by the very outraged media that you're seeing now? What they did under Biden makes this Signal thing look like a pimple on an ant's ass.
I would say they actually did do one thing. They caused inflation.
Yes.
By passing the so-called Inflation Reduction Act and adding the Green New Deal to it.
Good point,
which
Dana.
we are still paying for.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Yes, y'all. The media is going to run with this news for a long time. I know that for a fact. They will. This chat being leaked out. They're going to run with it, especially CNN. That I can tell you for a fact.
The Democrats' historic loss in November should have been their wake-up call. No more identity politics. But Jasmine, not to be confused with Davy Crockett, can't help herself. She's crying on stage, blaming Kamala's loss on bigotry.
When I tell y'all, I'm getting emotional, that I traveled this country because I knew.
There we go.
I knew it was gonna be bad. I didn't know it was gonna be this bad, but I knew.
Look, she is going to be so big. She's going to be so huge in the Democrat Party. It is going to be unbelievable how famous Jasmine Crockett will get. It might take 2-3 years. But this lady right here, you may say, you know what? She's total trash. You can say whatever you want to say about her. You know, just like talk about Trump. But this girl right here, okay, this lady right here, she is going to be absolutely huge in the Democrat Party. Now, is that going to be for a good cause or a bad cause? Nobody knows yet. But the fact is, she has that quality that reaches out to people. The way she talks, she connects with people on their level. And that's why people love Trump, because Trump can connect with the plumber, a truck driver, a construction worker, yet still connect with Elon Musk, billionaires, around the world. Even dictators like Putin. So I think she has a path that definitely will take her to higher grounds in future, especially in the Democrat Party. She's literally becoming the household name in the Democrat Party. She's about to make AOC look like personal assistant compared to her.
And I knew that the obstacles were going to be even greater because not only was it a woman, but it was a woman of color.
Come on, Jazzy. Kamala didn't lose because she was a black woman. The only reason she was VP in the first place was because she was a black woman. That's what Joe Biden said. Most Americans saw right through Kamala's phony campaign. The only one who didn't was Kamala. A new book by Biden's biographer is giving us an inside look at the night Kamala lost. Quote, the moment of truth came just after midnight. O'Malley Dillon huddled with her two best analytics experts. They were her barometer, her North Star. And when they told her they did not see a path, O'Malley Dillon knew there wasn't one. She called the vice president. We're down in the blue wall states, and we're not going to be able to make it up, she said. Oh, my God, said Harris. What is going to happen to this country? The golden age. That's what happened. And most of us are happy with it. Kamala's loss signaled the official implosion of the Democratic Party. Liberal voters don't want establishment types and retreads. They want populist outsiders who talk about working class issues. Stephen A. Smith says if he runs, it'd be a layup.
Do I believe that if I committed myself to knowing politics the way you and others know it, do I believe I could win a Democratic nomination? Hell yes. Particularly the state of affairs that exists, I think it would be a cakewalk. I think I'd take them all out. I really, really believe that.
Democrats are leaderless, scattered, and have no vision for 28.
Come
but
on
some
out.
Democrats like
Come on.
Crockett are in
Hey,
denial.
I think that
I'm telling you, man, this is just one video. She's appeared twice. She's becoming a star, ladies and gentlemen. But back to Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith says, I'm going to take them all out.
what you see as a whole when it comes to Democrats is that we are really hard on ourselves, right? Think of us as, everyday people who look in the mirror and we see all the imperfections. That is what we do as a party. And it's a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing in the sense that we put up some of the most qualified people to run for office because we are so critical.
Democrats need to revamp if they plan on jockeying for a position in 2028's invisible primary. Quote, there's a variety of ways to participate in the invisible primary: raising your profile, meeting donors, putting forth policy ideas, stating your principles. Everybody should try everything because the status quo brought us failure in 24. But will Pelosi let them? For years, Nance ruled her party with an iron fist, boxing out younger Democrats from power in cushy committee positions. She made sure her party fell in line. But her power's slipping, and a Democrat civil war is ready to erupt, something Pelosi's been desperately avoiding for decades.
Do you think it's wise for Democrats to primary other Democrats?
Well, I don't want to get into politics right here, but I think that we have a very strong caucus. It's a big tent, and I'd rather use our resources to add to our numbers than to have an internal fight.
Too late, Nance. The knives are out, and the rank and file's thirsty for blood. RNC National Spokeswoman Elizabeth Pipko is here. All right, Pipko, you're a woman, you're intuitive. Not as intuitive as I am, but you're probably a little bit more than most. When you see Jasmine, not to be confused with Davy Crockett, crying, are those real tears?
I think they actually might be, because she apparently believes that they keep losing because they put up the most qualified candidates. So, yeah, if I thought that that was the problem, I'd probably cry a little bit too. But I hope for all of our sakes they keep putting up these wonderful candidates in 28 and 32 and beyond.
Was this qualified candidate, Kamala Harris, really that shocked when she lost every swing state?
It's so funny to me because we had a trial run with Kamala Harris. She ran in 2020. She actually tried to be the candidate, and the primary voters threw her out. They told her what they thought. So I don't know why 4 years later we're supposed to pretend that we're surprised that people didn't want her to lead this country.
Stephen A. thinks it'd be easy pickings. He said he'd get up on that debate stage, knock them all down. Do you think he could?
I really do. I actually do. I think the only thing missing at this point is authenticity. People love that with Donald Trump. I think they'll love it no matter how good or how qualified a candidate actually is. And he is the only chance that they have of putting up anyone authentic.
Does he have the policy chops? Yeah, he's authentic, more authentic than most. But does he have the chops to talk policy?
He might not, but the Democrats that do keep getting it wrong on policy, so they might have better luck going with someone who doesn't know what he's talking about.
Anything's better than what they've put up right now.
Exactly.
So there's a civil war. Nancy's trying to keep things under wraps. She's done a good job so far, but it looks like this volcano is about to explode. What is this going to look like? They hate each other.
They do. It's a beautiful thing. Look, they deserve everything that they're getting. They put themselves in these positions. They believed that they were going to be the leaders that people put them in to be, and they decided to turn everything into a war on Donald Trump. Nobody did their job for the last 8 years. All they did was try to target Donald Trump in every way, shape, or form. They lost, and now they have to actually be politicians for the first time in a long time, and they seem to have forgotten how to do that.
They think they're getting a little traction with this signal controversy. Do you see that happening?
No, they try to get traction on every little thing. Donald Trump is going to order the wrong meal tomorrow or breathe the wrong way on Thursday. They'll talk about it for a month. The American people do not care.
All right, Pipko. Mrs. Intuition.
The American people do not care at this point. Look, they just want to be able to pay their bills, electricity bills, okay, gas, all right, power, okay, water, trash. That's what people care about at this point. Nobody really cares about, ooh, what does Trump say? Man, we need a break at this point.
Is plain and simple. Last week, AG Bondi announced federal charges against suspects in Oregon, dealerships or Tesla-related entities, end quote. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt with this.
President Trump condemns this violence, and he is determined to restore law and order in our country, and he will ensure that the harshest penalties are pursued for those who are engaging in this vicious violence that we have seen targeted at this American company, Tesla dealerships, Tesla employees, and also innocent Americans who have chosen to drive these vehicles. Many of them, ironically, are likely Democrats. The Trump derangement syndrome from the left is on true display with these attacks. It is getting dangerous, and the White House wholeheartedly condemns it.
A new opinion piece headline, it's official, the left is pro-terrorism now. An excerpt, whether it's burning down cities while chanting Black Lives Matter, forcing Jewish students from college campuses while calling for their deaths, or setting fire to electric vehicles to protest a member of the federal government, the objective is the same: to leverage violence to intimidate opponents into silence or submission in order to drive home a political agenda. That's called terrorism. In focus now, Texas Republican Senator John Cornyn. He serves on the Judiciary and Intelligence Committees. Thank you so much for being here. This is about as stupid as a protest as I have ever seen in my entire life as an American, because quite frankly, I don't know who they think they're harming, but they're not hurting Elon Musk. He's sitting just fine at the White House. They're hurting everyday Americans who bought electric cars, which I should remind you was pushed by the Democratic Party. So they are it's complete hypocrisy, and it is domestic terrorism.
Absolutely. It's Trump derangement syndrome, and it's fascinating, as you point out, that they're lashing out at electric vehicles and a company that's one of the premier manufacturer of electric vehicles, when this has been one of the primary agenda items of the left. And I'm glad to hear the Attorney General say that this will not be accepted and that they will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Maybe that will stop this once they see the full weight of prosecution come down on them.
You would hope, but will it? I mean, you need Congress. I mean, you actually have to have common sense in order to follow threats like that. So I'm not sure. But Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett facing more backlash for these remarks. Listen to this.
All I want to see happen on my birthday is for Elon to be taken down. Yes, I'm going to keep screaming in the halls of Congress. I just need y'all to make sure that y'all keep screaming in the streets.
And here's Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Now you have this Congresswoman Crockett who is calling for attacks on Elon Musk on her birthday. Let's take him out on my birthday, she says. Yet she turns and says, oh, I'm not calling for violence. Well, she is an elected public official. And so she needs to tread very carefully because nothing will happen to Elon Musk. And we're going to fight to protect all of the Tesla owners throughout this country.
Okay, first of all, for Crockett to call upon any kind of negativity on an elected official in the White House is just absolutely bonkers. But to remind the Democrats and the fear mongers who are going and lighting Teslas on fire, what exactly are they angry about when it comes to Elon Musk, in all seriousness? DOGE, they're upset about federal waste. They're upset about their tax dollars being spent on unnecessary spending. Do they even know what they're mad about?
Apparently not. I mean, I think, as you point out, what DOGE is doing, what Elon Musk is doing, is demonstrating some of the most egregious examples of wasteful spending here. And you would think that some of our Democratic friends would say, well, yeah, there's some examples of money that's being misspent. Let's clean that up and then let's keep the rest. But they are saying, in effect, don't change a thing. And arguing for the status quo, and that's unacceptable. And I'm actually excited about the opportunities that this presents for us to do something about something we should have done a long time ago.
Former vice presidential candidate Tim Walz walked back this comment after some serious backlash. This is another genius remark. Watch.
On the iPhone, they've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping.
And here's his attempt at a cleanup.
This guy bugs me in a way that is probably unhealthy, and but I have to be careful about being a smart. I was making a joke. These people have no sense of humor. They are the most literal people.
There's a new opinion piece which is titled "The Tesla Attacks Are Proof That the Left is Turning on Itself in Orgy of Liberal Cannibalism," argues, quote, to add even more duplicity and bedlam to the climate cult community, left-wing domestic terrorists have launched a jihad against Tesla, the company that until like 5 minutes ago was the very face of their utopian green energy future. The Democratic Party doesn't care that everyone is catching on to their hollowness. I'm not really going to give Walz any more credit than he's already been given for making those really irresponsible remarks, considering Americans also have invested in Tesla stock. And look at the stock market where it is right now. We don't necessarily need any more negativity from failed politicians.
Well, you can see now why he lost the election.
Exactly.
I mean, if that's the best he's got to offer. We have some very serious challenges facing our country, and clearly the November the 5th election was about changing the direction of the country, and President Trump promised to do that. We've already seen incredibly positive results at the border. I think our economy is going to take off because of energy independence, indeed what President Trump calls dominance of American-based energy production, and just taking the government's boot off the neck of a lot of our job creators, I think is going to create well, he calls it a golden era. Let's hope that's true for America. And I would think everybody should be very excited and optimistic about that.
Right.
But apparently not everybody is.
You know, the Democratic Party is falling apart at the seams, quite literally, right? I mean, Chuck Schumer, in fact, his own party, they want him to step down. He's becoming the new Biden. This is an opportunity for Democrats to actually step up against the hate, because they've always said and accused Republicans and conservatives of being violent. And you know, January 6th, just one major example. Why don't the Democrats come forward and say, stop this? Stop this. I mean, this is not okay. This is an opportunity also for Chuck Schumer to come out and speak against a Democratic congresswoman who's actually calling for people to stand up against Elon Musk. I mean, it's getting uglier by the day. The Democrats have the ability to try to tamper it down, but they don't.
Well, I think it demonstrates that they are unteachable, and certainly they didn't learn anything from the election on November the 5th when their party and their platform was rejected by the American people. So I would prefer that they would engage constructively and try to work together with us to try to solve some of these problems, rather than just lose their mind and destroy an inanimate object like a Tesla automobile. That doesn't solve any problems.
Yeah, no, it certainly doesn't. Senator John Cornyn, thank you very much for talking to us. We do appreciate you taking time. Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earl.
All right. Y'all want to keep going, or y'all want to catch a break? You want to catch a break, or you want to keep going? What do we have here? Elon has been getting strays. He's been getting strays, y'all. Dems won't let Elon relax. He getting strays, y'all. Ooh, I don't think we've seen this one. Or maybe we have. Yeah, that might getting strays. Elon is getting strays, y'all.
We have a presidential memorandum for your attention. This memorandum requires the immediate declassification of all FBI files relating to the Crossfire Hurricane investigation. This was obviously one of the instances of the weaponization of law enforcement powers of prosecution against you and others. We believe that it's long past time for the American people to have a full and complete understanding of what exactly is in those files.
Which gives the media the right to go in and check it. You probably won't bother because you're not going to like what you see. But this was total weaponization. It's a disgrace. Should never happen in this country. But now you'll be able to see for yourselves, all declassified. Is that correct? Would you say? All declassified?
Yes, sir.
Everything?
The FBI file with there's a classified annex, but other than that, this will put everything in the public eye.
Is anybody going to look? What about you? You going to look?
What about you?
And frankly, the FBI should be ashamed of themselves. And so should the Department of Justice. And so should Biden. Okay?
Next, sir, we have an executive order for your attention. We've taken action against a number of law firms that have participated either in the weaponization of government, the weaponization of the legal system for political ends, or have otherwise engaged in illegal or inappropriate activities. The law firm of Jenner and Block is one of these law firms. This is a law firm that, as you know, employed Andrew Weissman after he came off of the Mueller investigation. It's a law firm that's engaged in invidious racially and sexually discriminatory practices. It's also a law firm that has participated in the weaponization of the legal system against American principles and values. And we believe that the measures in this executive order will help correct that.
And Andrew Weissman is the main culprit?
He's certainly...
With respect to this firm?
He is one of a number of reasons that we believe this executive order is warranted.
He's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. Get him.
Okay.
Next, sir, we have an executive order for your attention relating actually to government payments. Historically, checks issued by the Treasury are, I believe, 14 times more likely to become the subject of fraud than electronic transfer payments. This is an executive order that's going to push the Treasury Department to modernize its payment system to ensure that where possible they're using electronic methods of payment as opposed to paper checks in order to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse in the government, which is obviously an endeavor that we've been pursuing in numerous aspects of government under your leadership.
It's basically modernization of equipment and methods, and it's something that really I think he's going to be a great Secretary of the Treasury wanted, Scott. And so we're doing this, and we have other modernization programs going on. We could let somebody else, whoever's next, whoever that may be, do it, but it's something that should have been done 25, 30 years ago. Okay.
Along similar lines, sir, this is an executive order. We're calling it Protecting America's Bank Account. The basic idea here is that instead of having lots of different departments and agencies and offices issuing payment, often without justification, often without any provided rationale, we're going to be centraling payment processes where possible in the Department of the Treasury and ensuring that measures are taken in Treasury against waste, fraud, and abuse to ensure that money that's leaving the public Treasury is as protected as it possibly can be.
All right, good. Many of these things should have taken place decades ago or longer.
Lastly, sir, we have an executive order for your attention on the very important subject of election integrity. We believe that this executive order is the farthest reaching executive action taken in the history of the Republic to secure our elections. Among numerous other aspects of this executive order, this is going to cut down on illegal immigrants on the voter rolls, ensure that the Department of Homeland Security and the data that they have available is being fully weaponized to ensure that illegal immigrants aren't voting. This will include a citizenship question on the federal voting form for the first time. This executive order instructs the EAC to cut federal funding to states that don't take reasonable steps to secure their election. This calls on the Department of Justice to vigorously prosecute election crimes, particularly in states that we don't believe are in compliance with federal law around election integrity. I could go on and on for a while, sir, but the compliance with National Election Day rules, cracking down and investigating and prosecuting foreign interference in our elections, revoking President Biden's Executive Order 14019, which essentially weaponized government to corrupt and pollute our election process. There's a lot in here, but we believe that these are very important steps that we need to be taking as an administration at your direction to ensure that our elections are as secure as they possibly can be.
Okay, you all understand that? Yes. Election fraud, you've heard the term. We'll end it, hopefully. At least this will go a long way toward ending it. There are other steps that we will be taking in the coming weeks, and we think we'll be able to end up getting fair elections. Perhaps some people think I shouldn't be complaining because we won in a landslide, but we got to straighten out our election. This country is so sick because of the election, the fake elections and the bad elections, and we're going to straighten it out one way or the other. And it's an honor to sign this one. To sign all of them, but to sign this one is a great honor. Excuse me. Thank you very much.
Sorry, sir.
So we're going to go around the room a little bit quickly, and we're going to introduce these very outstanding people. They've had, in all cases, outstanding careers. They're very incredible people that are going along as rapidly as the system can go along. We're ahead of, I guess, anybody else thus far. So I want to thank John Thune. He's done a very good job, and the whole Senate We're being delayed as much as possible by Democrats, but that's standard. It gets to be just standard. But the process is moving along very quickly. So, Sergio, just say hello, and then we'll introduce everybody.
Absolutely. Sergio Gorham, Director of Presidential Personnel. It's been an absolute pleasure again to know every one of you every step this way. As the President said, we're at a record pace. We have more nominees today from the Senate than at any previous point, over 70, and that's a record in 2 months. And we're proud of that, and we're determined to ensure the world has America First patriots in all of our posts.
Charles Kushner. I'm going to France and Monaco, and I'm proud to serve under the greatest president of our country. Very proud to serve.
Thank you, Chair.
James Blair, honored to work here in the White House as Deputy Chief of Staff. And Mr. President, I think that all of these successful people would want to go serve the United States under your leadership as a testament to your vision and leadership.
Thank you, James.
I'm David Perdue. I'm going to the People's Republic of China, and it's my honor to represent President Trump, people of America, and represent our interests and values in China.
I'm Leah Campos. I'm going to represent the President in the Dominican Republic. Mr. President, thank you for the honor to serve you in the Dominican Republic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Waltz, National Security Advisor. Look forward to working with every one of you on behalf of the President, his leadership, and the American people.
John Arrigo. I am going to the Republic of Portugal, and I am very excited to do so and serve on what I consider one of my closest friends and one of the best presidents this country has ever had. Thank you.
Kevin Cabrera, nominated to be Ambassador to Panama. It truly is an honor, President, to be part of your administration.
Thank you.
Tom Barrett, nominee to the Republic of Turkey. Delighted and honored to be with you, Mr. President, in that host country, which is one of the most ancient in civilization, is in search for your peace, prosperity, and security program. Thank
Good place.
Mr. President.
Good leader, too.
Yeah, Mr. President, thank you. It's an honor. I'm Pete Hoekstra, you know that.
Yeah.
But I am going to Canada.
Ooh.
I look forward to serving you in Canada and your agenda.
And you're doing a great job. Thanks, Pete.
Juan Johnson, sir, thank you for the nomination to represent you and the United States to the United Mexican States. And I'm really encouraged by some of the conversations you've had with President Sheinbaum recently and to the increase in support that we've seen out of her government along our border on the important issues. So thank you, sir.
They have stepped it up a lot,
yes,
Mexico and Canada, so see how it works, right?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Matt Whitaker from Des Moines, Iowa. I'm proud to, as soon as I'm confirmed, go represent you at the North Atlantic Treaty Organization.
Okay, thank you, man.
George Glass, on my way to Japan. Previous administration, I served for you in Portugal. It is a great honor to be able to do this the second time. Thank you
very
for
much.
the opportunity.
Thank you, George.
President Trump, my name is Ken Howry. I'm your nominee to be Ambassador to the Kingdom of Denmark, a very close partner and ally. I served for you last time for the Kingdom of Sweden. I want to thank you for the faith you've placed in me as your nominee to Denmark.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
President Trump, thank you for the honor of a lifetime. My name is Stacy Feinberg, and hopefully I'll have the honor of serving in Luxembourg. And I think this is the greatest presidency and the greatest time in history, and it's all because of you.
Thank you very much.
Nicole McGraw, nominated to serve in Croatia, and it's such an honor to be here with you today and to serve you and the American people.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
President Trump, thank you very much for your nomination to the Republic of Chile. And let me tell you, Border Patrol agents are so thankful for everything that you've done for them. But
That man knows more about the border than anybody, I want to tell you. Thank you.
President's a great honor. Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Good luck.
afternoon, Mr. President. Brian Birch. If I'm confirmed, I'll be representing you at the Holy See. And Catholics are very proud of your work. Your team is doing an excellent job, so thank you. Very honored to serve.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you again for the honor, the greatest privilege. My name is Summer Sparkus. I will serve this great man at the Republic of Malta. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Joe Popolo from Dallas, Texas. Very proud to serve you at the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the very first country to recognize the United States 250 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, if I'm confirmed, I will be representing you in the state of Israel. It will be an extraordinary honor, and you've done more for Israel than any president in any time of its history, and we are grateful. And I'm hoping I'll get to be there by Passover.
Thank you, Mike. And Mike is an outstanding guy. They all are. Mike, I think is going to do wonders for Israel. he actually probably gets along with both sides, and that'll be interesting to see. But the world is watching you, Mike, so good luck. Good luck. You're going to do well. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, thank you for this great honor to serve the Republic of Italy and San Marino. I'm so looking forward to going over there and working with that great ally, and for the pleasure to serve you. Your staff has been great working with us and have done a great job, and we really appreciate them. Thank you, sir, for pushing this along.
And have a good time. A really good time.
I'm Warren Stevens from Little Rock, Arkansas, and I have the honor to represent the President and the United States in Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and to be chosen to go to such an important ally of ours is, I know, sir, and I'm looking forward to it, but thank you for the honor.
You're going to do fantastically. These are tremendously successful people, and you two guys, and then you add on Mike. I think they have a little more money than Mike, but he's got some other advantages. He's got some other, like upstairs, he's got some big advantages.
Yeah, he does.
It's very exciting. It's really exciting to have all of you. Would you have any questions, media, for the people that you just saw? So outstanding, and I thought it would be nice to bring them before you. And so if you have any questions, please.
I wanted to ask you about the talks in Saudi Arabia. It sounds like you made some progress on the Black Sea ceasefire. Yeah. Could you update us on that? What happens now?
So we've made a lot of progress on two fronts, on both sections that we call them sections, but they're much more than that. Russia, Ukraine, and also the Middle East. And we'll see what happens. We're in deep discussions with Russia and Ukraine. And I would say it's going well, but it's a situation we should have never had to even think about. Should have never happened. And on the Middle East, that's been going on for a lot of years, centuries and centuries. It just keeps going. And we are making a lot of progress, so that's all I can report. But some very, very big talks are going, and detailed talks are going on right now on both fronts.
Mr. President, you said that your national security advisor learned a lesson after a reporter...
Wait a minute, excuse me, I didn't pick you. Go ahead, please.
Mr. President, the ceasefire agreement that was broken today allows for third-party countries to help implement the agreement. What does that look like, and who's going to be involved?
The ceasefire agreement?
Yes, the maritime ceasefire agreement between Russia and Ukraine.
Well, they're going to get together. Look, it's they agreed to something, and it got broken. There's tremendous animosity. There's a lot of hatred, as you can probably tell, and it allows for people to get together, mediate it, arbitrate it, and see if we can get it stopped, and I think it will. That'll get stopped.
What countries are you looking to work with, sir, to help implement and monitor that ceasefire?
We have other countries involved, and they're involved very strongly in the process, and that'll be resolved. That's actually, as bad as it is, that's the least of the problems. So we'll get that resolved, and we are being aided by other countries too. Yes, please. Yes. Brian?
Tomorrow, the subcommittee on DOGE is going to review funding for NPR and PBS. Now, every Republican president has always promised to take away this money that's going to these two public news outlets. If they're successful, I know Senator Kennedy has backed it, Marjorie Taylor Greene in Congress has backed it. Would you be interested in defunding and taking away taxpayer dollars to NPR and PBS?
Well, I would love to do that. I think it's very unfair. It's been very biased, the whole group. I mean, a whole group of them. And frankly, there's plenty look at all the media you have right now. There's plenty of coverage. I was from a different age, and they spend more money than any other network of its type ever conceived. So the kind of money that's being wasted, and it's a very biased view, you know that better than anybody. And I'd be honored to see it end. We're well covered. Look at all the people that we have here today. We're well covered, and we don't need it, and it's a waste of money. Especially, I don't even know what DOGE's recommendation is. I assume their recommendation is to close them up.
Well, after they hear all the testimony, I think they're going to make a decision relatively sooner than later. Yeah. But we'll see what that turns out.
I can't imagine that they wouldn't, because they have found so much waste, fraud, and abuse hundreds of billions of dollars, and just waste, fraud, abuse. You heard yesterday some of the new things that were found. 22 billion just in environment, billion. You know, if you had 22 million, Warren, it would be nice, but 22 billion put into environmental accounts. One was 2 billion into one account, Stacey Abrams, where they had $100 in the account. And just before I came in, they put $2 billion. And you guys are looking, so you mean 2 million or maybe 200,000? No, $2 billion were put in the account. What do you think of that, Mike? Do you think that's a straight deal, 2 billion?
Just write me the check, Mr. President. I'll take the money to Israel.
It's it's a horrible thing, and we have so many of those things. So they've done an incredible job, and the country wants to hear it. I think DOGE is actually very popular because of what's happening. They're hearing about all of these scams and for big money, tremendous amount. And when you add it up, just hundreds of billions of dollars being wasted, and much of it's fraud. You know, we talk about waste. And it is waste and abuse, but a lot of it's fraud
Can I
too.
follow up on something?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
I just want to follow up on that. If Planned Parenthood is defunded, would you look into the harvesting of baby organs that they've done throughout the years and maybe go after some criminal prosecution on that?
Well, I think you're talking about a subject that is a heated subject, and we'll look into it. We're going to look into everything, but that's certainly a subject that's been debated for a long time, and we will look into it, yeah.
Mr. President, some senators have expressed hope that the White House will support a rescission package to codify some of the DOGE cuts into law. Where does the White House stand on that? And are you making progress?
Which package?
A rescission package to codify some of the DOGE cuts into law.
You know what? It would be great. I think we're going to do that. I think they're going to do it. I think we're also going to be codifying a lot of the executive orders that we've done, which have been very popular. And we're looking at one, I will tell you right now, that I think perhaps will be controversial, but not with the people, and that's sanctuary cities. We're going to end sanctuary cities for some of these jurisdictions that aren't cooperating with law enforcement. They're guarding criminals. They're taking the rights away from the citizens of their state and their city. And we're going to be ending sanctuary cities if we find it necessary to do in certain major areas. And we may just end the entire thing altogether because it's just a way of protecting criminals. And nobody else is benefited by that. And for some reason, Democrats want to keep and they want to shield criminals from being sent back to their countries or being sent to prison. And in the meantime, the crime rate has gone through the roof. Under Biden, it was through the roof. It's starting to come down, but we're taking a lot of people out of here. So we may be presenting you very shortly with a executive order ending sanctuary cities.
Mr. President, are you going to change any of the practices that your national security officials used after a reporter was inadvertently added to a group chat about attacks on
He knew she was going to ask.
Well, I think it's a question I've been asked now, and I've given a few answers, and they've all been the same. We have an amazing group. Our national security now is stronger than it's ever been. We have had a very successful, numerous attacks on that area. These are people that shoot down ships, not only our ships, ships all over the world. They're shooting down right out of the water and damaging them badly, or they're going down. They're also shooting anything that happens to be flying in the area. We hit them very hard. There was no classified information, as I understand it. They used a app, if you want to call it an app, that a lot of people use, a lot of people in government use, a lot of people in the media use. And I think I'll ask Mike. Mike is here. Do you want to respond to that, please?
Yes, Mr. President, you asked about lessons. I think there's a lot of journalists in this city who have made big names for themselves, making up lies about this president, whether it's the Russia hoax or making up lies about Gold Star families. And this one in particular, I've never met, don't know, never communicated with, and we are looking into and reviewing how the heck he got into this room. But I'll tell you what, the world owes President Trump a favor. Under Biden, global shipping was shut down. Pinprick attacks, months between them, our destroyers being fired upon dozens of times. President Trump took decisive action with his national security team, took out the head missileer, knocked out missiles, knocked out headquarters, knocked out communication sites, and for once, as we hear, as you all hear from every one of our allies, thank God for American leadership again. Thank God for American strength. You're a welcome, Lord. And look, we had a national security team that was coordinating these efforts. As Director Radcliffe testified today, his first day on the job, he was introduced to this app on his government systems at the CIA and at the State Department and otherwise. So, look, this journalist, Mr. President, wants the world talking about more hoaxes and this kind of nonsense rather than the freedom that you're enabling. And a key part of our sovereignty is open sea lanes and knocking the crap out of terrorists, which is exactly what your team and Pete Hegseth, a good friend and fellow veteran, is leading the charge on, and it's an honor.
We had a very, very successful, we had a very, very successful evening, and we've had numerous successful evenings and days in that area. The Houthis are absolutely on the run. The worst of them has been killed. This should have been done a long time ago by Biden, but Biden was an incompetent president. He couldn't do anything. He didn't know where he was going. He had no clue. This guy had no clue. This should have been done a long time ago. As they shoot missiles at ships, randomly shoot missiles at ships, and they make their own missiles. You know, this is not an incompetent group of people. They make their own missiles. They get the missiles also from Iran. It's an offshoot of Iran, another offshoot. You have Hamas, you have Hezbollah, you have the Houthis. You got a lot of stuff going on with Iran. And we sent a letter to Iran. You're going to have to be speaking to us one way or the other pretty soon, because we can't let this happen. But that's an app that a lot of people use, and somebody got on. I mean, happened to know the guy's a total sleazebag. The Atlantic is a failed magazine. Does very, very poorly. Nobody gives a damn about it. This gives it a little bit of a shot. And I will tell you this, that they've made up more stories, and they're just a failing magazine. The public understands that. He's a very good man. That man is a very good man right there that you criticize so strongly. He's a very good man, and he will continue to do a good job. In addition to him, we had very good people in that meeting, and those people have done a very, very effective job, and you're going to see it. And it goes on, by the way. It's going to go on. And I think the Houthis wish that it didn't happen, but that's what it's all about. We have to create a safe country, a safe world, and that's what we're doing.
Do you worry that national security was put at risk, Mr. President?
Of senior officials using signal.
Do I plan to ban who?
The use of signal to communicate from senior officials.
Well, I don't know I don't know anything about signal. I wasn't involved in this, but I just heard about it. And I hear it's used by a lot of groups. It's used by the media a lot. It's used by a lot of the military, and I think successfully. But sometimes somebody can get onto those things. That's one of the prices you pay when you're not sitting in the situation room with no phones on, which is always the best, frankly. But you know, the best is to be there. In fact, oftentimes I've been in fact, just last week I was in the situation room on something very important, and we had a couple of people hooked up by line, and I said, cancel the line. Sorry, fellas, what you do is we'll tell you all about the meeting, because I know people do get on those lines, whether it's signal or anything else. Yeah.
So are you going to change any procedures as a result of this?
Well, I mean, look, we look at everything, and you know, they've made a big deal out of this because we've had 2 perfect months. We are bringing in business. We have another one announced tomorrow, a big one, very big. Like in the history of our country, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And I think probably a lot of people are saying they started by saying it was the greatest first month that a president has ever had, and I think that's true. And now they say it's the best second month, and they had to find something. And this certainly will look at this, but the main thing was nothing happened. The attack was totally successful. It was, I guess, from what I understand, took place during, and it wasn't classified information. So this was not classified. Now, if it's classified information, it's probably a little bit different. But I always say you have to learn from every experience. I think it was very unfair the way they attacked Michael. He's a good person. The person that was on just happens to be a sleazebag, so maybe that's just coincidence. I don't know.
But you are going to conduct
Would
an
it be a
investigation.
problem if the Atlantic released all the text messages if they're not classified?
Well, I don't know. I'd have to ask the military about that because, maybe you wouldn't want that. I don't know. I will say this, that from what I heard, the man that we're talking about, who's not somebody that I don't think most people have ever heard of, he found it very boring and he left early. He got off the line very early. So I can't speak to it other than that. So he's made up a lot of stories and I think he's basically bad for the country, but it's a failing venture, very failing venture. They're very upset. And a thing like this is publicity for them, but I don't think we should allow people that are very good, like that man sitting right at the end of the table who's done a great job. We shouldn't allow them to be hurt by it.
Mr. President, can I follow up on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you saying you're okay with the continued use of Signal by administration officials?
No, that's not what I said. I said we'll look into it, but everybody else seems to be using it. It seems to be the #1 used device or app, whatever you want to call it, and we will certainly look. If it was up to me, everybody would be sitting in a room together. The room would have solid lead walls and a lead ceiling and a lead floor. But, life doesn't always let you do that. In the meantime, the attack itself that we were talking about and discussing has been an unbelievable success.
But you will conduct an investigation, is what you're saying into this.
We'll look into it, sure. I would look into it, sure. I want to look into anything like that. I would ask them. It's not really an FBI thing. It's really something having to do with security. Security, like, will somebody be able to break in? Are people able to break into conversations? And if that's true, we're going to have to find some other form of device. And I think that's something that we may have to do. Some people like Signal very much. Other people probably don't. But we'll look into it. I think, Michael, I've asked you to immediately study that and find out. If people are able to break into a system, now in this case it wasn't that this attack was going on and nobody found out anything. And again, the person that was on, as I understand it, he left very early because he didn't find it very exciting. But I think it's something you should look into.
Yes, sir, we are. We have our technical experts looking at it. We have our legal teams looking at it. And of course, we're going to keep everything as secure as possible. No one in your national security team would ever put anyone in danger. And as you've said, and we've repeatedly said, the attack was phenomenal and it's ongoing. But the media wants to talk about everything else except for the hostages you're getting out of the Middle East, Iran on its back foot, sea lanes getting reopened, peace in Europe. As we just saw today with a Black Sea ceasefire, we were just on with Steve Witkoff, myself, our team in Saudi Arabia. They want to talk about all this other stuff except for your amazing successes and the successes of your team.
One of the other things, and sometimes you have to move very quick.
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. With that being said, we've seen this before earlier. Your boy got to go. It is currently 3:33 a.m. and today's date is the 26th of March, 2025. We have been streaming for 3 hours, 43 minutes. We're going to be back here in the morning. And of course, there are several hearings tomorrow. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dream. And never give up on God. Believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams. And believe in Almighty God. All right? Thank you so much for tuning into the live show. If you haven't, subscribe. If you haven't liked this video, like this video. Double tap your screen twice to like this video. And support the channel. Join the memberships. It is $4.99. And thank you guys so much. You guys are the best. Thank you to Local Things. This is the moderator for tonight. God bless you, Birdie. All right. See you soon. All right.